music.
There is no terrible way to win. There is only winning.
We won't be out long.
Take your time. Track's all yours.
You ready? The name on the middle of that steering wheel should tell you that I was born ready. Hit it. Attaboy.
Let me drive. I will make a fool out of you.
I got a message for all of them. Shake and bake.
What does that do? Did that blow your mind? That just happened.
These cars, you sit in a box, a coffin, gasoline all around you. It isn't like it being inside a bomb.
It's tough enough being a girl on the track. Living in my dad's shadow doesn't help much.
You have to be kind to the car. You feel the poor thing groaning underneath you.
No race was ever won in the first corner.
I'm gonna give you an engine, low to the ground, extra big oil pan will cut the wind from underneath you. That'll give you 30 to 40 more horsepower.
Every one of us has to find a reason to do this. You do it because you're driven.
Brakes are warm. Tires are warm.
I'll work in the cars and I'll drive and I'll eat and sleep and I'll work in the cars and I'll drive.
Damn fast, and when he runs it close together, it requires fantastic concentration and rather special skills.
I was beginning to think I'd never be anything more than a piston-happy lead-foot punk. Then this starts to happen.
If you're going to push a piece of machinery to the limit and expect it to hold together, you have to have some sense of where that limit is.
Besides, the best drivers don't dwell on the future or the past. The best drivers focus only on the present.
They could never have imagined it, those pioneers who invented the automobile, that it would possess us like this in our imaginations, our dreams.
I'm gonna give you a fuel line that will hold an extra gallon of gas. I'm gonna shave half an inch off you and shape you like a bullet.
Somebody put it in your mind you gotta be perfect every time out or you're a failure. Well, forget that. Just forget it.
Racing is in my blood.
I was put on this earth to race cars.
I accept every time I get in my car. There's 20% chance I could die, and I can live with it, but not 1% more.
No, Nicky, don't bring the percentages into this. Don't be a pro. The minute you do that, you kill what's good about this. You kill the sport.
And at that speed, your reactions can barely keep up with these sudden changes in direction.
You ready to put away your toys and grow up?
You want me to work the pit and you drive? Fine, we'll try that.
The car's a living, breathing thing, and she's alive.
If any of us imagined, really imagined, what it would be like to go into a tree at 150 miles an hour, we would probably never get into the cars at all. None of us.
Are you ready to become a real race car driver?
I am just as good as anybody out there on that track, and I don't need anybody to win my races for me.
I wish my daddy were alive to see this, to feel this.
And when we get you primed, painted, and weighed, you'll be ready to go out on that racetrack. You hear me? You're gonna be perfect.
You don't understand what happens, do you? They make 10,000 cars, they make them exactly the same way, and one or two of them turn out to be something special. Nobody knows why.
When I won it was probably the last time I ever felt pure victory.
So it has always seemed to me that to do something very dangerous requires a certain absence of imagination.
Because I'm quicker than all of you.
Soon you will know what it is like to be defeated by the hands of somebody who is truly better than you.
The only thing to do here is to drive just as fast as you know how and hope your car doesn't break.
And if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
If you ain't first, you're last. There's 40 other vultures out there who managed to finish the race on their tires. You see Darrell Waltrip using up his tires?
There's nothing I can't do with a race car.
I mean, hell, isn't that what we're in this for? To stare death in the face and to cheat it? Come on, there's nobility in that. It's like being knights.
Sometimes you could swear the whole thing's falling to bits.
No pressure, nobody breathing down my back, just driving because I left it pure.
On the other hand, I suppose potential problems are in the back of your mind all the time.
So in many ways, I feel responsible for what happened. And
You were, but trust me, watching you win those races while I was fighting for my life, you were equally responsible for getting me back in the car.
You're so lucky. Sit there all closed in by machinery and bolts, precise things. There's hardly any room for you. It must be a nice, safe feeling.
Yeah, you gotta learn to trust something. Might just as well be the seat of your pants.
A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. And racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
Well, we can drive. We can drive beyond the limits of the tires, the engine, the car, anything else.
Look out there. Out there is the perfect lap. No mistakes. Every gear change, every corner. Perfect. You see it.
I just hope when you do, that I'm there to see it.
Ask any racer, any real racer. It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
But it isn't just business, is it?
what we do. It's passion, love, which is why we are prepared to risk our lives for it.
Racing. That's the name of the game, isn't it? Win or lose, put up or shut up.
Why does everybody keep telling me what my problem is?
That you get so emotional.
You would never, ever say that to a guy.
If you don't leave your feelings off the track, you're never going to get what you want.
I'm a race driver, and I can win it on my own.
Please let me race.
Fine. Then let's race.
I really cannot wait for this particular race to get underway. We should be in for a fast one as well, but I think in terms of battles out on circuit, I think we could be in for quite some race here at Hockenheim. Magny-Cours a couple of weeks ago happened to be okay, but we didn't see quite the action that we were looking for. But Hockenheim, I think, is going to be something else.
Okay, so I had a little bit of an issue on the audio there on my part. That's my mistake. My microphone should be on now. So, guten Tag, alles, und willkommen in Hockenheim. So you just heard from Tom Cairns there. My name is Topher Smith. Alongside me, Tom Cairns, as you've just heard from. So we are here in Hockenheim. We're here at the Forest layout, and this one is going to be hugely exciting. A couple of driver changes to take you through for this first race, which is a League 2 race. The first of those coming at the Zaxby team, Lucas de Grassi, having endured a huge shunt last time out at Magny-Cours. He has been rested by Mike Smith for this race, and the reserve driver Jamie Green brought in to replace him. And Tom, it was a very big hit that Lucas de Grassi had at the last race. Not really a surprise that the decision has been taken to rest him for this event.
No, and I think it was with Jack Aiken, wasn't it? Unless I'm thinking of another driver of which he came together with. By the way, de Grassi's shunt has left him out for the round here at Hockenheim. Jamie Green getting his chance in the Grand Prix World Series. So many drivers have been given debuts this season, which is great to see. Gather some experience and potentially options for the new teams that are joining the series next season. We have our third league, so new managers will be thinking about who to choose from next season. Could Jamie Green be a popular choice?
We will have to wait and see how he gets on today. In his debut in the Grand Prix World Series, a lot of team managers now looking forward to Season 3 and thinking about which drivers they are going to carry on into that season and see if they can mount a title challenge with them. Moving on to our second and final driver change of the afternoon. Force India, Jack Aitken with a race ban going to this race. Highly dangerous driving against Valentino Rossi last time out in Magny-Cours. He pulled across the front of the Italian, forced him into the barrier and into a huge crash. Jack Aitken rather unsurprisingly given a race ban for that particular instance, and Alex Zanardi, the team's reserve driver, filling in the void today in Hockenheim. Tom, you remember what happened with the Aitken-Rossi collision last time out. It wasn't really any surprise, was it?
No, it was silly driving that from Aiken in terms of the way he cut across on Rossi on that occasion, and he's paid the price for it and has been given a race ban, which is I wouldn't say costly for Ed Spencer because his team are not really fighting for anything this season now. It's just pretty much pride. Alex Zanardi's already been in the car this season before he was replaced by Jack Aiken, I think it was, from the Genai Grand Prix onwards. Now Zanardi's back in the seat for this one and raring to go and perhaps maybe get a point or so on the board.
And we are raring to go as well here in Hockenheim. Quickly, before we go down to trackside, here are your championship standings. It is even Stevens between the top two in the drivers for the League 2 race. Adrian Suttil and Marino Sato both on 91 points. Suttil ahead on countback with his 2 wins as opposed to Sato's 1 win. Lopez only 1 point behind him as well, but still yet to win a race this season. Lopez very much doing it on consistency today. Will Power there or thereabouts on 87 points. And Tom, Power goes from pole position today. Maybe this is a great opportunity for him to take the lead of the championship.
4 points separating the top 4 drivers. You can't really get too much closer than that. I mean, to be quite honest with you, any one of those top 7 that are 20 points apart from each other could very much lead the championship by the end of today. And that's why I think Hockenheim is one of the most exciting circuits in the Grand Prix World Series. And of course, it's the debut, of course, in the Grand Prix World Series. We are only in its 2nd season, is the Grand Prix World Series, and Hockenheim getting the opportunity to host a race, and hopefully for this foreseeable future as well.
Also within the top 10, Alexander Rossi in the LaRousse, a race winner earlier this year, but not really getting too many more results since then, but just picking up points here and there. He is 5th in the championship. Elio Castroneves, 6th for Leighton House on 74 points, still with the chance of leading the championship at the end of the Hockenheim Grand Prix today. Antonio Fuoco in the Life, a race winner this season on 71 points. Will Stevenson, Callum Ilott in the Modena and the LaRousse there on 62 and 54 respectively. And Alex Lynn, only 3 races into his Grand Prix World Series career, and he's in the top 10 by virtue of a Grand Prix victory last time out in Magny-Cours. John Monroe, the team principal of HRT, very happy with his decision to bring Alex Lynn into the team, and it's paid off with a race victory for the Englishman. Can he get even further up into the top 10 at the end of this race? Moving on to the teams. Leighton House, they broke into the 200 barrier after the last race. 208 points now for Chris Cavaney's British team, and they are ahead of Life on 174 and HRT are 169. Tom, Leighton House giving a little bit of a breakaway at the moment. They're starting to build up a bit of an advantage over their rivals, but it's still quite close to get those top 3 positions for promotion into next season.
Very certainly, and Leighton House 75 points clear over 4th place. The race, remember, the top 3 automatically go up to League 1 for next season, and Leighton House are in a very, very strong position here, and they could very much win or seal promotion either the next race after this one or the one after that. But they're looking very, very strong here at Leighton House in terms of the way they've been scoring points, as are Life and HRT lately. And with Alex Lynn picking up that victory last time out in Magny-Cours, Suttil eventually managed to recover to get back into the points after that dismal start to his race in France. HRT are looking very strong as well. So this is pretty much a race where LaRousse and Eurobron have to do very well in to stay in the hunt for promotion.
LaRousse and Eurobron, they will be doing everything they can to break into that top 3 by season's end. It is going to be an absolutely mega run into the season finale. Only 4 rounds left to go after today's event. Modena also there on 83 points ahead of Pacific, and then Coloni, Zakspeed and Forcing are all within the top 10. Their chances of promotion pretty much extinguished at this point. It is now more or less between the top 5 to see who's going to get into League 1 for next season. Well, I did say after this race there will only be 4 events left. Let's crack on with this race and see who's going to take victory today here in Hockenheim. On pole position, it is Will Power in the Leighton House alongside Antonio Fuoco. Row 2, Marino Sato puts both lives into the top 3. Ilio Castroneves putting both Leighton Houses into the top 4. Alan McNish, a brilliant qualifying from him, sees him head up row 3 ahead of Will Stevens. And Adrian Suttil and Callum Ilott make up row 4. They both need a result today if they're going to help their teams secure promotion into League 1. Jose Maria Lopez on row 5 alongside Christian Lundgaard, the Dane, still in the early days of his Grand Prix World Series career with Scuderia Coloni, Sergio Santacamera, and last time winner Alex Lynn on row 6. Row 7, Alexander Rossi and Marcus Fingerhocker head of row 8 of Brendan Hartley and Sam Bird. Row 9, Scott Speed is alongside Sergei Sorokin, still looking to make a bit more of an impact in his career, and we'll want to get into the points today. Jamie Green on debut is on row 10 alongside Jerome D'Ambrosio, and then Mike Conway and Valentino Rossi, who was a victim of Jack Aitken's antics last time out, and Aitken receiving a ban and being replaced by the next driver on row 12, Alex Zanardi, who is alongside the Real of Oliver Turvey. Then on the back row, the Fometal duo of Giorgio Pantano and Gaston Mazzacane. We now go down to trackside. Will Power is on pole position. This is going to be an absolutely mega race, Tom. A lot of slipstreaming will be involved in this race. Who's your money on?
I'm going to have to say Castroneves. He could do a good result here and get himself into championship contention. He's not too far behind, but a good result here would very much put pay to it. And here we go.
We are off and away in Hockenheim. Will Power gets a really good start off the line, but he's got both of the life cars looking to get up the inside. Power holds on around the outside and swoops through to maintain the lead, carrying through that momentum to build up a bit of a gap already over Fuoco, who looks like he's coming under attack from Reno Sato. Sato going alongside his teammate there, trying to get into second position right behind them. Castroneves and McNish running side by side as well. Castroneves all cutting right across the front of Alan McNish and holds on to fourth position. Meanwhile, Sato down the inside of Antonio Fuoco, and it's a swap of positions for the life duo, but Will Power clearing off into distance already. He's built up about second. Oh, we've got a bit of a collision there at the back. There is Oliver Turvey. I think that's Valentino Rossi and one of the Force Indians, I think that is as well, getting involved with that particular instance. A bit of bodywork flying, so someone's maybe lost their front or rear wing out of all that. We haven't seen who that is just yet. We were expecting there to be a little bit of carnage down into the first chicane, and we've got it, Tom.
We did. It looks like a sack speed that ran into the back of one of the Andrea motors, so I think it was Jamie Green has got front wing damage because Sam Bird is further up ahead in front of him who's not got damage. So I think Jamie Green on his debut not getting the best, not having the best of starts at the moment.
Not really the debut that Jamie Green will have wanted coming into the Grand Prix World Series. He's there at Zach Speed in place of Lucas Di Grassi, who's recovering from his crash at Manny Court. He will have wanted to make a bit more of an impact than that, but not that kind of impact. Will Power in first place ahead of Marino Sato, Antonio Fuoco and Elio Castroneves holding off the advances of Alan McNish to keep fourth position. Will Stevens is in sixth ahead of Callum Islet. And Oliver Turvey's gone off and he's lost a lot of bodywork and a couple of wheels there. So Turvey, has he come into contact with someone coming into the stadium section? We're getting a replay of it here. Now trying to look down the straight to see who he's with at the time. Looks like he's with one of the Force Indians, that's like Sorokin. And maybe not contact actually. I think Turvey maybe just getting caught out by the dirty air of Sorokin there, which threw him offline and into the barrier. So Tom, how do you read that one?
Yeah, I mean, Topher just lost it all by himself down into the stadium section, caught the gravel chop at high speed, and it just ripped off the suspension. We've seen that quite a few times this season where cars just simply bounced over the curbs or into the gravel chop, and we've seen wheels flying off in there. We can just see Rossi struggling once again in the Larue so far, down in 16th place. You could just see Scott Speed making a move on the Zach Speed of Sam Bird ahead of him.
So Oliver Turvey, our first retirement in this race through an accident. Possible contact with Sorokin, I don't think there was, but it was very close between those two. But Turvey in the Real is the first out of this race. A chaotic first lap here with some bodywork flying also for Jamie Green, who will have to come in and get that repair. There is Green's teammate Sam Bird running in P15 at the moment, and this is Zach Speed's home race here. The German team, they want to get some good results, and well, that's not the way to do it. Sam Bird, there's some contact. It is Bird actually, just talk about him, he's just lost his rear wing. Now is that off the Larousse of Alexander Rossi, or maybe it was Brendan Hartley has got down the inside. We're getting a replay here, Hartley down the inside, coming to the Oscar, but Rossi has just gone into the back of Sam Bird there, so Rossi missing his braking point, coming into contact with Zach Speed, and I wonder whether Rossi's going to come onto the wrath of the stewards for that one.
He came from quite far back, didn't he? So even think about making a lunge on Sam Bird into the Os curve, and it's going from bad to worse for Zach Speed and for Mike Smith, That is a really bad blow for him, and he's going to see both cars at the back of the field after just 2 laps. Sete Camera is doing a good job though. He's up to 9th in the Pacific. I think he's just been overtaken by Alex Lynn actually. But he's going to try and make a move back as they come into the stadium section. And Sete Camera nearly thought about making a move and nearly went into the gravel like Turvey did on the lap before. He's kept the car together. And this is Marino Sato closing in on Will Power now. Now that's interesting because Will Power had jetted off into the distance, didn't he, on lap 1, and Sato's just closed back in on him.
Sato making the most of the power of his life engine. It is more powerful than the Leighton House, but at the same time it's also a bit more unreliable. So does Sato really want to be putting in the speed now to try and catch up to the back of Power if it's going to do his engine bad for later on in the race? I mean, that's for the driver to decide, I suppose. But Marino Sato, 8 tenths of a second behind Will Power. Sam Bird is into the pits to repair that damage, and I'm pretty sure their stewards will at least be having a look into that incident between Rossi and Bird, and it's a bad start to the home event for Zach Speed. One driver coming into grief on the first lap and the other coming to grief on the second lap of the race. Here's another driver who's enjoying his home event at the moment, Marcus Winkelhock, 10th in the championship and 10th in the race. That is Sete Camera up ahead of him, and he's just been overtaken by Lundgaard actually, so Winkelhock loses that 10th position as Christian Lundgaard in the Scuderia Cologne gets down the inside into the Ost curve, through past Winkelhock and Lundgaard up into the points. He'll want to put in as good a performance as he can if he's going to retain his seats going into next season. The team managers are thinking about which drivers they want to continue with going into season 3, and that sort of overtake will not do Lundgaard any bad at all, although he has just lost that position to Winkelhock again now, and there's lots of momentum coming under attack from Adrian Suttil now.
So looking at Sato, he's all over the back now of the Leighton House of Power. Will he be onto the gearbox of the Leighton House once they get onto the first of the back straights after turn 1? Probably not on this occasion, but it's 6 tenths behind them as they complete lap 3. I would say in terms of stops, Topher, I think we're just going to see the one stop here today considering the number of laps we've got.
34 laps today in Hockenheim. It's usually a 45 lap race in real life, but we run these races at 75% race distance. It adds an extra strategic element as drivers wonder, do they want to do the one-stop strategy or the two-stop strategy? We've seen a good variety of different strategies going on throughout the races in the past, and today might be one-stopper as Marino Sato looking down the inside here of Will Power, and he's going to make the move into the braking zone at the Ost curve, and he makes it. Marino Sato into the lead here in the League 2 Hockenheim Grand Prix. Sato looking for his second Grand Prix World Series victory here today. He makes a move on Will Power through into lead. Now for Fuoco, he will use that as a bit of encouragement because he will have seen up front that Sato has caught up to the back of Will Power and made their move through into lead. So Fuoco, with the exact same power unit that Sato has, can he now go and do the same and close in for second place?
So he's looking further down the order. Stevenson 5th ahead of McNish, Ilots ahead of Lynn. And one driver who's not having the best of starts to the race is Jose Maria Lopez for once. Winkelhock is ahead of him.
Lopez running 3rd in the championship at the moment. Hasn't won a race yet this season, but has been impressively consistent, scoring I think 5 podiums so far across the course of the season so far, and runs 3rd in the championship as a result. But as Tom's just pointed out, running 13th at the moment, 3 places behind teammate Winkelhock, but we do still have a long way to go today here, Tom. We just started lap 5 out of 34. There's plenty more drama to come.
Most certainly so. One can just see Will Power, he's thinking about getting back into the slipstream of the life. It's just whether it's worth having a go on it. But the thing is, if these two continue tussling amongst each other, that's going to allow the likes of Froco and Castroneves to go in. So at the moment, it's Life leading Leighton House, leading Life, leading Leighton House. That's your top 4.
So Marino Sato leading Will Power through the Clark curve there as Christian Lundgaard fighting with Adrian Suttil here. Lundgaard going a little bit backwards at the moment, but fighting back to retake P11 from our championship leader. Lundgaard feeling really racy here today. And Suttil, he'll want to get on with this. He's leading in the championship but only on countback, and his closest rival Marino Sato leads this race, and Suttil looking for a way through. Can he get down the inside of the Ost curve as Jamie Green is out of the race? So from bad to worse for Zach Speed, it's a suspension failure for the British DTM ace, and you can see there it's the front right tyre that has given way on the Zach Speed. It has been an absolutely terrible afternoon so far for Mike Smith. Not where he wants to be at all. Jamie Green out of the race, Sam Bird out of the top 15. It can't really get much worse so far for the team, can it, Tom?
No, and it's Sack Speed's home Grand Prix pretty much done and dusted, really, with Sunbird so far down the order and out of sync with the rest of the field. Don't know whether Sunbird will just get to the checker flag in this one. There's Isla. Oh, he just ran wide, didn't he, through the center chicane there, and he got away with it on that one. And further ahead, we can see McNish closing in on the Modena of Will Stevens for 5th place. It seems though it's settling down now towards the front, and drivers will be thinking about pit stops, won't they?
Well, Will Power still keeping Marino Sato honest at the moment. He's still within a second of the Japanese driver. There is your visual gap right there. As we now look at Sergio Sette Camera. Oh, has he got a problem? It's a puncture for Sette Camera. And is he going to make it back to the pits here? The pit entry is right there, and he's going to make it. No, he's pulling off to the side of the circuit. Little bit of bodywork flies as he goes across the grass. But oh, he was so close to the pit entry. Could have got their tyres changed there. But it's not to be for the Brazilian. That is another retirement from this race.
That's such a shame for Sette Camera. He could have got a good point all today, and Pacific have Brennan Hartley still in the race, albeit in 13th. It's been another below par performance, it seems, and we saw Pacific's pace at the beginning of the year, didn't we, Topher, where we had Kvyat leading, well, albeit less than a lap in the opening round in Taupo, but they threw the non-championship victory away at Vancouver, and nothing's gone right for them ever since. We can see Scott Speed in the Modena goes in.
Lynn there. So he must have gotten wide through what I think was the Ostkirve just there. Getting on the gravel. Does he have damage actually? Yes, he's lost his front wing. So is that from contact from another driver, or maybe just riding the curves too hard? But either way, Alex Lynn, our race winner last time in Manicourt, now plummeting down the order with front wing damage, and he's going to have to come into the pits. As a result of that, he's in 9th position now, but he will obviously go down a few more positions as Lundgaard goes through into P9. He's now got his teammate Adrian Sutil as the next driver behind. He won't want to get in his way too much. Sutil in the lead of this championship. Alex Lynn will not want to get in his way. They're playing a team game now at this part in the season. HRT chasing promotion into League One, and that is not what John Monroe will want to see, with one of his drivers having his front wing falling off. At the front, Marino Sato's pulled out a gap over Will Power now. It's 1.9 seconds between the top two, and it looks like Antonio Fuoco is closing in on Will Power. The gap between those two, 1.7 seconds, and we will keep an eye on the graphic to see how that gap changes out the next laps. It's now 2.2 behind Power and Sato, and it's now down to 1.5, so Fuoco is indeed closing in on Will Power for second place here. The power of that live car working very nicely at the moment, but we are only on lap 7 out of 34. We still have a long way to go in this race.
We do. We just see the fundamentals of Pantano and Mazzacane tussling over what looks like 20th position. We can just see a car coming out of the pits. That'll be Alex Lynn rejoining with a new front wing. At least he'll be on fresher tyres than most of the field, but his chances of victory are diminishing. It's much easier to overtake here at Hockenheim than it is at Manicourt. Food and Rossi coming together again. Rossi's already had one collision there earlier. Doesn't want to be involved in another collision with someone else. And I wonder if the stewards will have a look at maybe not just that incident, but the one that Rossi was involved with earlier with Sam Bird.
Well, now on the run down towards the centre curve, and Alexander Rossi making no friends in this race, not least with his countryman Scott Speed. We've cut away to Will Power now, going away from that battle. We're now back with it against Scott Speed. Alexander Rossi has gotten ahead, and Sorokin and D'Ambrosio are now looking to get through as well. We're about to go 3 wide coming into the Agip curve here, and we've cut away again at just the wrong moment. We were about to go 3 wide, and we've got someone's engine going. It's Jerome D'Ambrosio. The Andrea Motors engine has expired, and D'Ambrosio will go no further in the Hockenheim Grand Prix. And there we go, it's confirmed as an engine problem, and it's not really worth pitting to get it repaired. Once the engine is gone, it is gone for good. He's not even getting out of the way, he's staying on a racing line, and everyone else is going to have to go around him. The engine is now on fire, so Jerome will have to get off the circuit as soon as he can. And that is yet another retirement out of the League 2 Hockenheim Grand Prix, our 4th, I believe, of this race.
Sergei Sorokin under pressure from the Real of Mike Conway, as he thought about going for a move before they get to the Clark curve. And you can just see in the background D'Ambrosio he'll need to get off the racing line very slow. He's going very slowly now, so he should be pulling off before the Clark curve. He's holding up the Fonmetals now. He's off the circuit anyway. And Jerome D'Ambrosio once again out of the race.
It's not been the best of seasons so far for Jerome D'Ambrosio. He came into the squad mid-season as a replacement for Vincenzo Sospiri. Lewis Bassendale taking that decision to bring in someone with a bit of a better calibre in the world of Formula 1. Jerome D'Ambrosio with a lot more race starts to his name than Sospiri ever had. Not that he actually had any, if you know the story of MasterCard Lola back in 1997. He's had the speed, I'd say, given the machinery that he's had at his disposal, Tom. Jerome D'Ambrosio, he has had the speed, but not really the car to work with it at the moment.
No, Leandro Mo's been struggling this season. You can see Scott's speed riding the curves, just avoiding the gravel there. Now he's hoping not to join Oliver Turvey on the sidelines. He's got away with it there. He's in 14th place, is Scott's speed behind Alexander Rossi. And Brendan Hartley in 12th, 6 seconds behind 11th place man Lopez, who's not too far off where Suttil is, and Sorokin in the pits now with electrical issues, so forcing his problems not going away by the looks of it.
So we thought reliability might play a bit of a part in this race this day, and it certainly is at the moment. We've had 4 retirements from the Hockenheim Grand Prix, and Sorokin now with an electrical problem, but he will come into the pits and effectively do a Control-Alt-Delete on his Force India. He should be back out, no problem. Don't forget, folks, you can get in touch via the YouTube live chat. We've had quite a few comments coming in already. Lots of people saying hello as well. Hello to Sisipi24, Ricardo P41, and Tobias Wirtz, meine Freunde from Deutschland. Guten Tag. So make sure he will follow along. This is going to be a fantastic day's racing. As we now look at Antonio Fuoco in 3rd place. The gap is down to 1.2 between himself and Will Power. That's getting very close for 2nd position between those two, and that is a battle that will be brewing over the next few laps. Meanwhile, Marino Sato, 3.4 seconds now in the green over Will Power, and putting in a dominant performance so far over his rivals. Will Stevens here in 5th position. He's lost a bit of ground to Helio Castroneves, but he's pulling away from Alan McNish in 6th position. Callum Ilott in 7th. Our race winner in the season opening Taupo Grand Prix. He'll want to get some more points on the board. Marcus Winkelhock's having a very good run at the moment there in 8th position in the Eurogrun. 9th is Christian Lundgaard, and 10th in the final points paying position is Adrian Suttil. But of course, Suttil leading this championship, he'll want to be much higher up than that, Tom.
Most certainly, and Suttil, as it stands, will be 24 points behind Marino Sato at the end of this one. And he's got some ground to make up, as you see Mike Conway making his way into the pit lane. He was in the top 15 before he came in, and he'll fall to the back of the field. There's not... Voida lost 4 cars in this race already, plus Sorokin and Jamie Green, who came in for early stops, are already at the back of the field, as is Alex Lynn, but I'd expect Lynn to power his way through the field and setting some fastest laps along the way. I don't know if he'll be pitting again before this race is done. In fact, he's back in the pits, is Lynn.
So, is that for fuel, or has he had another problem? We're getting to the area of the race where we might see the 2-stoppers start to come in. So, I'm wondering whether his first stop was purely to replace a front wing, and now he's coming in again for some fuel to basically get himself back on strategy. We haven't seen him come into the pit, so we might not get an answer to that. Ricardo P41 asking in the YouTube live chat, how many rounds in the championship? Actually, we'll get to that in just a moment, Ricardo, as Marino Sato hits out of the lead.
So this crucial stop in the race for Sato. What strategy is he going to go on? 2 stops. So it's early to be pitting, actually, and the drivers are thinking that the 2-stop could be the way to go, given the pace advantage you can have on fresh tyres.
Well, Will Power and Antonio Fuoco have carried on for at least another lap, so we will wait to see whether they are also on the 2-stop strategies, or maybe one of them is trying a 1-stop strategy. Strategy has always been a fascinating part of the Grand Prix World Series. We've seen so many different alternate strategies playing out. Marino Sato, he put in a great performance in what race was it, Tom? I think it was in Italy. It was at the Imola Grand Prix. He put in a 1-stop strategy while everyone else went on to a 2-stop strategy, and he made it work for his maiden Grand Prix World Series victory. And now, will we see any of the alternate strategies here today? We've just had the first of the front runners coming in, as Sato is out ahead of Winkelhock, who we ride on board with here. Winkelhock has his tyres up to temperature, Sato does not, And Fingerhog is down the inside in his P7. This is not what Marino Sato would have wanted. He needed to get clear air coming out of the pits to maintain his lead, but this is an absolute disaster now for the life car. He's been overtaken by Marcus Fingerhog, and he's now under attack from Christian Lundgaard. Lundgaard already pulling out of the slipstream here and easily passing on. This is why Sato has a problem. It is a throttle problem for the life car. We thought that his tyres just simply were not up to temperature, but no, Sato genuinely has a problem with his life car, and I'm not sure whether that is a problem that can be repaired in the pits. That's if he can get back to the pits. He's coming up to the Agip curva at the moment, and then he's still got to navigate the Sachs curva and the Uppel curva. But is he going to make it? He's right behind Jose Maria Lopez there, trying to use some slipstream to basically ease the pain on his car. This is going to be a close one, and will he pull into the pits or will he pull out of the race? We're carrying on looking at him now, and he does indeed pull into the pits, so maybe the team can do something about the problem, but that is not what the life team would have wanted. And Tom, that is an absolute lifesaver for Adrian Sutil.
Just in the tail in the race for both automatic promotion, well, for both promotion in the team standings and also in the Drivers' Championship in League 2. As Sutil, he's in 8th place now, but just looking at where Will Power, Antonio Frager and Christian Neves are, they could be very much throwing themselves in contention for the title with the way things are going right now. Lundgaard also pitting in the Coloni. He'll rejoin most certainly ahead of Sato. Sato rejoins in 15th behind him.
So we're starting to see the two stoppers coming into the pits now. Will Power and Antonio Franco have carried on for another lap each. Here we are looking at them now. There's a difference of less than a second between them, 0.9 showing on the graphic. Will Power enjoying the lead at the moment, but are they going to have to come into the pits this lap? Hopefully the cameras will stay with them and we can see whether either of them will come in at the end of lap 12. So through the stadium section, is either of them going to pull into pits? And no, they both carry on for another lap, so possibly going on to a one-stop strategy here, Tom.
Possibly so, or they could just be going on for another lap, so going for a longer first stint, but still on the 2-stop. So we'll look to see who's going to make the 1-stop work and who will just decide to go on the 2-stop and go on the fresher rubber. I wonder how much time we can possibly gain with a single lap here at Hockenheim, because it is a long lap, despite the long straights.
I'm sure we'll find out across the course of the day, seeing how the different strategies play out. Going back to Ricardo's question earlier on, how many rounds are there in the championship? There are 16 rounds in this season. This is round 12, so after we have finished today, we will have 4 more races to decide both championships. We have the League 2 race that is happening at the moment, and then later on today, the League 1 race, and both championships hugely competitive and hugely exciting. It's going to be an incredible run into the season finale at Laguna Seca later on in the season. But for now, let's focus on what is going on in the forests of Hockenheim. Will Power, 1.9 seconds ahead of Antonio Fuoco. Cashin Neves in 3rd, and here is the battle for 4th place. Will Stevens coming under attack from Alan McNish. It is Modena versus Colonian. McNish, oh, he's got a lot of straight line speed there, making the most of the slipstream. Stevens possibly having a problem. We haven't seen anything to suggest that. Alan McNish looking to be very quick in comparison to the Modena. We'll keep an eye on Will Stevens to see if he does have a problem or if it was just a similar case of a massive straight line speed difference. Here is Ilio Castro Neves running in P3 at the moment. He had an incredible entry into the Grand Prix World Series. He won his first 2 races with the Leighton House outfit. He hasn't won a race since, but he's propelled himself into championship contention as a result. 50 points from his first 2 races. It was a great start to his campaign here, and it's helping Leighton House as they chase promotion into League 1 for next season. And looking at the graphics, Stevens has pitted actually. Stevens into the pit, so if he did have a problem, the team can now get that sorted.
So where will he rejoin then? Because I don't know if Stevens was planning on pitting at the end of that lap, but he hasn't pitted in this race yet, so I'd like to think that the Modena team will take the opportunity to add some fuel in and take him to either his next pit stop or get him to the end of the race. We'll see. So we can see Valentino Rossi coming around, but I think Stevens is going to get out ahead of him before the first turn, and Stevens will rejoin ahead of Valentino Rossi in 11th place. And here's Marino Sato overtaking the Force India Sonardi down into turn 1. We haven't seen an overtake there yet in this race, and Sato has managed to do that so far. Now he's going to be on the tail of Lundgaard very, very shortly, and riding back to his teammate Antonio Fuoco briefly as Suttel makes a move on Marcus Fingerhock in the Eurobrunt. They can't quite make it work, and Suttel remaining behind the home hero. We've got quite a number of home heroes here at this Hockenheim, haven't we, Topher?
We do indeed. We've got Adrian Suttel and Marcus Fingerhock 7th and 6th at the moment. Trying to find my notes here to see who else is a home hero here.
I will say that, so Fuoco's in the pits for his, what could well be his only stop of the race, but we'll look at his dash to see whether or not he is going to the end or whether he'll be pitting again. So stops in the box, and he's going to the end, so he is going to make the one-stop work.
So if he's going on to a one-stop strategy, then that would suggest that Will Power is going to put in the exact same strategy here. But going off another lap here, we talked about the undercut briefly earlier on, Tom. Here is our chance to find out. There's about a second difference between Fuoco and Power before Fuoco came into the pits. Now we will keep a close eye on the Italian here to see where he will come out when Will Power pits. So Fuoco has some clear error at the moment, which will be very handy for him. He's out ahead of Adrian Suttel, our championship leader. Suttel handed a little bit of a lifeline here by Sato having his throttle problem earlier on. Sato's now down in P14. Where is Fuoco going to get the advantage over Power, if at all? Power is continuing on for at least another lap. We will keep an eye to see when he comes into pits, as Sonardi comes into the pits for the first time on his return.
So Leighton has 1-2 at the moment, albeit both of their drivers have yet to stop. You can see Lynn overtaking one of the Von Mattels. His chance to point to very, very slim now. That was Giorgio Pansino who was passing. As Will Power, he's coming up to those back markers. So if I was Will Power, I'm pitting at the end of this lap.
I think he might well do. We're going to keep an eye on the graphic as we now look at this battle here. Actually, no, is it a battle? Yes, it is. So it's one of the Reals getting past one of the Von Mattels, and Will Power goes on for another lap. So going on for a bit of a longer first strategy, and this is Gaston Mazzucani right behind one of the Reals. I think that's Mike Conway that he's right behind. Mazzucani trying to make an impact as he tries to retain his seat for next season. Now, here's an interesting one, Tom. I had a chat with Ewan Gale earlier on in the week. He's starting to think about season 3 and what he's going to do with regards to his drivers. There are rumours that Giorgio Pantano might be replaced at the next race, and the name that I've heard, Tom, is Esteban Gutierrez. He would be a great addition to the Grand Prix World Series.
It could well be, but the Von Mattel has been off the pace this season, and I think for Ewan Gale it's more about, I think just experimenting which drivers will be best for next season. As we can see, McNish, Hartley, Alexander Rossi and Lopez all pitting at the same time. McNish should get out in 6th place. Stevens will go back up to 7th. And Sato back up to 8th now after that unscheduled stop. So Sato still on course for some points, although not as many as he would have liked to have done considering where he was earlier on in the event.
We just caught a glimpse there of a great battle going on between Mike Conway and Gaston Mazzucani. Really close quarters racing between those two, and thankfully not coming to blows as Conway holds on to P15 ahead of Gaston Mazzucani, fighting for his seat into season 3. And Mazzucani now into the pits, so that battle will not be continuing for the time being. Maybe will be picked up later. We'll see if we can keep an eye on that one later. But at the front, Power has an 11.1 second advantage over teammate Elio Castroneves. Neither has come into the pits yet, while Scott Speed there getting past the sole remaining Andrea Moda for P16 there. So battles all the way through the race, and Will Power now into the pits. So where is he going to come out in relation to Antonio Fuoco? Sergei Sorokin across the cabin there, and I think he might have got away with that one there. That was a bit of a wild ride across the coast. I think that was at the Clark curve. I think it was the first chicane on the circuit, but that won't do his back end good landing like that. Now Power is back out of the pit. There is Callum Ilott going through into P2, and Will Power has got out ahead of Antonio Fuoco, but Fuoco, his tyres are up to temperature. Can he make that advantage work? Going down into the Clark curve, I think he's a little bit too far away at this moment in time to make any use of the slipstream. So Will Power putting in a decent in-lap and hopefully a decent out-lap as well to hold on to what is the net lead of this race. Antonio Fuoco not doing enough with his tyres early on in his second stint.
So Suttel rejoins in 9th place behind Christian Lundgaard. Suttel still on course for some points. That will promote Sato up to 7th. He was right on the rear wing of Will Stevens in the battle for 6th. I hope we do get to come to them in a moment. as Castroneves now leads as Will Power riding on board. You can see Froco in the background. And here's Sato, here we go, look, Sato making a move on Stevens. He thinks about going to the outside before the S-curve, but that is never going to work there. I think Sato's going to have to bide his time a little bit. Oh, he goes for it there, look.
Oh, he tried to go for it down the inside. We cut away at just the wrong moment from that battle. Looking at the graphics, Sato still behind Will Stevens. And I don't think they came to blows. I think they will have both gotten away with that. But Sato is an absolute man on the mission at the moment. He's already been into the pits twice in this race. And running in P7 is still not a bad performance from Sato, actually, given he's already been through the pit lane twice. As Castroneves comes into pits, as does Callum Eilert, so Will Power will reassume the actual lead of the race ahead of Antonio Fuoco. Where is Castroneves going to come out into the pack? Where's Eilert going to come out as well? These two still in contention for the championship. It looks like it's going to be between the likes of Suttel and Sato going into the last few rounds. Well, unless this man here, Will Power, has anything to say about that. He also has designs on the championship as he tries to help Leighton House get promotion into League One for next season. Now, looking at the graphics, Castroneves still in P3 and Eilert is out behind McNish in P5. So a good day so far for Chris Cavney and the Leighton House outfit. Oh, Lundgaard very nearly dipping two wheels into the gravel there through the Nordkurve, turn 1. And he continues on in P8. It's also a good day for Scuderia Coloni. They've got McNish in P4 and Lundgaard in P8. It's going to be a double points finish as it stands for Gemma Dixon, but we're only about halfway through this race at the moment. There's still a lot of laps to be completed. Now, Antonio Fuoco, who was hoping to make the undercut work on Will Power, hasn't worked out at all, and the gap is actually increasing between those two, 1.5 seconds. Sato down the inside of Callum Eilert, that is, so he has dispatched Will Stevens. We didn't see that on camera, but he's now also got past Callum Eilert, so Sato trying to get himself back into contention in this race, and so far actually putting in a blinding performance. Tom, we mentioned earlier, he's been through the pit lane twice already, and he's still running in P5. This is a stellar performance from the Japanese.
And he's got 5 seconds to make up on McNish. Now, we know that Sato is in a much more competitive machine than the Coloni, so we should expect him to close up rather soon. Gap is currently 5.3 seconds between McNish and Sato, so just keep an eye out on that gap the next time they do cross over the line, which will be the start-finish straight.
So the gap increases to 1.7 between Power and Fuoco in first and second. Castroneves 12.4 seconds off the lead in third place. Now the gap between McNish and Sato, waiting for it to update, it is exactly 5 seconds. So Sato closing in a little bit on Alan McNish, and it's going to be the forest section where Sato is going to make up a lot of his time. Here is Alex Lynn getting past Sergei Sorokin, I think that is, in the Force India. Lynn, our race winner last time out in Magny-Cours, and having a disaster of a race here, getting caught out with damage earlier on after a rough ride across the curbs. Now he's looking forwards and wanting to get up into top 10 if he can make it, but that might be a bit of a tall order today for the HRT. On the other side of the HRT garage, our championship leader, Adrian Suttel, P9 at the moment, and he's 2.3 seconds behind Christian Lundgaard at the moment. Will he be able to eat into that advantage that the Dane has over him? We'll keep an eye on that difference as the race progresses. And you can see there the gap between Power and Fuoco is still increasing. It's now 1.7 seconds. Fuoco just about keeping Will Power honest at the moment, but not really doing enough to trouble the Australian at the moment, and Power looking very comfortable out in front at the moment. Now the battle continues between Lynn and Sorokin. Here is Sorokin out of the slipstream. It's going to be a bit of a drag race down to the Clark curve, and who's going to come out on top in this particular battle? And Alex then holds on around the outside into the first part of the Clark curve and holds on to the position. Now looking at the lap times here last time around, Will Power 0.3 of a second faster than Fuoco on that last lap, and Castroneves just slightly ahead of Antonio Fuoco, but not really enough to make that much of an impact into the advantage of the Italian in second place. Alan McNish 1.2 seconds off the lead of Will Power at the moment, so he's not going to be troubling the podium positions anytime soon. And Marino Sato puts in the fastest time on the last lap, a 10th of a second quicker than Will Power. Crucially, 1.3 faster than McNish.
So Sato very much closing in. I was just going to say, he's got the gap down a lot over the course of that last lap. The gap is now nearly, well, just over 3.7 seconds between McNish and Sato. They're just coming through the first sector now. The gap is now 4.3, or 3.3 actually, judging by the maths. So Sato rapidly closing in on McNish. It's just a matter of time before he gets past him now, isn't it?
There is a lot of power in the back of that life car, and he is making every horsepower count here in Hockenheim. Sato leading earlier on in this race, but a throttle problem forcing him to take a second pit stop, so he fell down the order, now putting in a superb comeback drive, and he's up into P5. At the moment, the graphics about to update again, and it's now under 3 seconds between McNish and Sato. We're looking at Antonio Fuoco, who's losing more ground to Will Power in second place. The gap now 2.2, about to cross the line once again, and the gap 2.5 now. Will Power pulled out 0.3 of a second in that last sector alone, and Will Power's now going to get the aid of Slipstream here for one of the Fon Metals. I think that's Gaston Mazzacane just up the road, going down the main straight. So Will Power will want to make a Slipstream count as he looks to move further away from Antonio Fuoco here and get his second victory of the season. We're over halfway through this race. Will Power looking very comfortable in the lead, 2.5 seconds ahead of Antonio Fuoco. Cashua Neves in third ahead of Alan McNish, who's under threat from Reno Sato here. Callum Eilert in 6th ahead of Will Stevens in 7th, and Lundgaard running into points in 8th. Adrian Suttle up for 2 points in 9th, and Marcus Finkelhock on course for that final point in P10.
So Sato's got the gap down to less than 2.2 seconds. Let's see what the sector times are showing now. It's 1.7 seconds between McNish and Sato. We want to be going to that battle very shortly, because Sato's going to be on the gearbox of the Colonia very, very shortly. Eilert in a good 6th place at the moment now, and we weren't expecting him to be that high up, but it's been disappointing again from LaRousse, it has to be said.
LaRousse started off the season with the 1-2 finish in Taupo. Callum Eilert winning ahead of Alexander Rossi, and that we were there thinking that LaRousse might actually walk away with this championship as a result of that early form, but it hasn't been the case. They only won a race since then, and that was at the hands of Alexander Rossi. Check my eyes here. Which race was it he won?
Yongam.
Thank you very much, Tom. Alexander Rossi winning the Yongam Grand Prix. So LaRousse having a win each on either side of the garage, but nothing really too much since then. They picked up podiums here and there and a good amount of points, but LaRousse not really maintaining the championship battle that they were hoping to put in at the start of the season. They are still very much in contention for a top 3 position and promotion up to League 1 for season 3, but with a few races left to go, time is running out to make sure they keep hold of a top 3 position. We're at lap 22 now of 34 in the League 2 Hockenheim Grand Prix. Will Power now 3.2 ahead of Antonio Fuoco. That traffic really helping Will Power in the lead of this race. And here is Christian Lundgaard trying to get past Will Stevens here. This is a drag race down towards the Clark Curve. We have cut away from that particular battle to ride on board with Will Power. And Marino Soto now up the back of Alan McNish and down the inside on the straights, even before the braking zone of the Ostkurve. He's through into P4, and Lundgaard is ahead of Will Stevens. We can see on the graphic there, P7 for Lundgaard and P8 for Will Stevens. This has been a brilliant race so far for the Scuderia Coloni team. Both cars within the top 7. Gemma Dixon will be happy to see that. She's been thinking about what to do with her drivers going forward into season 3. And Alan McNish getting a little bit on the older side now, Tom, but showing not just today, but in quite a few races in this championship, he's still very much got it.
Still very much so. I saw Will Stevens lose 2 positions on that lap as well, because Suttel's got by him immediately after Lundgaard got past him. So Will Stevens going backwards. He's got over 4 seconds in hand on Marcus Finkelhock.
Speaking of Marcus Finkelhock, he's in P10 at the moment, ahead of Jose Maria Lopez. Now Lopez is a championship contender here today. He's only 1 point off the championship lead, and I wonder if there might be some team orders down the Eurobahn, because Finkelhock is not a championship contender. As Marino Sato into the pits again. Now, I imagine this will be his final scheduled pit stop to fuel himself up to the end of the race, and he will want to come out in some clear air to make his fresh tyres work and get himself back into the points again. Christian Lundgaard also into the pits as well for what will be his final pit stop of the race. Sato showing his P10 at the moment. Is he going to be out ahead of Brendan Harley here and stay within the top 10? I think he is. So Sato in the top 10 and on course for points. We ride now on board with Giorgio Pantano as he gets a lap put on him by Will Power. So Pantano possibly not going to be retained at the next race. We did mention earlier that Ewan Gale looking to change drivers at the next race. We're not sure if it's going to be for Mazzacane or for Pantano at the moment, but don't forget, Tom, Pantano is the only one out of those two to have scored points this season, so you would have thought if it's going to be either of them, it would be Mazzacane.
Yeah, I mean, Mazzacane just hasn't quite had it since he's made his debut at the Birmingham race, wasn't it? That Mazzacane was drafted in. Just looking at Sato now, can he make his last set of tyres work? Because there's no doubt he's going to be a lot quicker than Lopez, and in a quicker car. It's just whether he'll make up the time in the remaining laps to get back into what was 4th place that he was in.
So Marino Sato about 9 seconds behind Jose Maria Lopez at the moment. We imagine there will be a few more pit stops coming in the latter stages of this race. So where is Sato going to end this race? We're going to follow his progress all the way through to the end. And here is Alexander Rossi running in P12 at the moment. Not where he wanted to be. He was in the wars earlier on as he had collisions with both Sam Bird and Will Stevens. We haven't heard anything from the stewards regarding an inquiry so far, so maybe just about getting away with those, but Rossi not exactly the most popular driver here today.
No, definitely not. You can see Marino Will Power. There's almost a coming together there between Gaston Mazzacane and Leo Castroneves, and Mazzacane not getting out of the way as well as he needed to have done that. And will the stewards look at that?
Well, Castroneves gave him a little bit of fish shake as he went through. The Brazilian not at all happy with what the Argentine driver was doing there, but he's now through safely and he carries on in P3. The gap now between Power and Froiko up to 3.9 seconds. So Will Power sitting very pretty here for his 2nd Grand Prix World Series victory of his career. We're on lap 24 out of 34, getting towards the end of the race, but still a lot of action can happen in this race. Rossi riding the curves a lot there on the exit of the Ostkurve, getting a bit wide as he makes a move past Brendan Hartley into P11. Now 1 position off some points here. Pantano into the pits, but nothing really going to be affected from that in this race. Hartley coming back at Alexander Rossi here, so fighting over P11 here, and Hartley is back through on the LaRousse at the centre curva. And if we have any retirements within the top 10, that could end up being for the final points in this race, Tom.
Could well be. Not that we're jinxing it. We've only had 4 retirements in this race so far, and we've got 10 laps remaining, so reliability-wise, it's actually been very, very good in this one, on a circuit where we felt it was going to be more of a car breaker.
That's actually a very good point, Tom. So I was expecting this to be a race of attrition. The cars spend a lot of time at the higher end of their engine ability from the long straight. So we thought it'd be a bit of a car breaker, but as you say, Tom, only 4 retirements. The first of those, Oliver Turvey crashing out earlier on, Jamie Green having a suspension collapse, Sergio Sette Camara had a puncture, and Jerome D'Ambrosio, his engine caught fire earlier on. We had a few problems throughout this race, Tom. We had Marino Sato coming in with a throttle problem, and we also had Sergei Sorokin with an electrical issue. But I'd say the drivers have been quite lucky overall in where they've had these problems, because it means they've been able to get back to the pits and have the mechanics repair the issues.
Looking at Sato's gap that he's got down to Lopez, the gap is currently 4.4 seconds. Sam Bird makes the move on.
Sorry, Tom. Sorry to cause question there. Sam Bird very close to the back of what I think was Alex Lynn, the 2 countrymen there, very nearly coming together at the Nordkurve. So that could have been very nasty between those two. Zach Speed not having a great day so far. Jamie Green retiring with a suspension collapse earlier on, and Sam Bird having some bodywork damage from an earlier contact with Alexander Rossi. So the last thing that Sam Bird and Mike Smith, their team principal, want is to have more problems in this race.
Yeah, and Will Power getting held up by the force injury of Alex Sinardi. Now Sinardi was tussling with Mike Conway and he's lost momentum on the exit, and it cost Will Power some time, and that's allowing the Froco to close back in a little bit again.
Will Power looking to get down the inside, and Sinardi not making it easy, but Power's now through past Sinardi, but Sinardi making no friends there as he gets a lap put on him by our race leader. Sinardi only here for a one-off substitution in place of Jack Aiken, who received a race ban before taking out Valentino Rossi at the last race in Juan Zanardi. Maybe a little bit rusty there going into this race, not doing a good enough job to get out of the way of Will Power, but Power now safely through and into still in the lead. And Mike Conway, I believe that is, the next driver up for Will Power to lap, as Fuoco now up the back of Zanardi, and this Zanardi going to hold up Fuoco as well here. Coming into the Sachs curve, Fuoco looking down the inside and effectively having to pull off a racing overtake rather than a lapping overtake there on Zanardi.
Well, at least he's closer to Power than he was a lap ago, and Will Power will be very, very angry with Alex Zanardi's moves, as well as I think it was Gaston Masnacano who held him up, so Power struggling to get through some of the back markers, it seems. Castroneves on his own in third place, but at least he's on course for some good points. Benish, most especially in the Coloni, and LaRousse getting some much needed points with Calamilo, but Alexander Rossi still outside the points in 12th. The gap between Lopez and Sato, 1.3 seconds in the last set that they had gone through. So we'll see what the times are when both of those two cross over the line.
Sato has been absolutely flying on this stint. The gap between himself and Lopez after the pit stop was around about 9 or 10 seconds. The gap, as you say, Tom, now down to less than 2. It's 1.3 to be precise between those two. Sato looking to get the move through into P9. Now Sato had the championship advantage earlier on in this race, having led earlier on. We've now cut to him as he looks to get past Lopez, and also Winkelhock right there in front of him as well, so maybe a double overtake coming up for Marino Sato. He dispatches Lopez for P9, and he will duck back into the slipstream of Marcus Winkelhock and now look to get P8. Gets himself an extra 2 points on top of what he would currently get for P9, and hopefully we will stay on board with him through this. He's getting right up to the back there of Winkelhock, and Winkelhock, he knows that position's gone. He's not making it difficult at all for Japanese driver. Sato up into P8, putting an absolutely blinding performance, and so far, Tom, my driver of the day. He had his issues earlier on which put him back into the midfield, but putting those behind him, he has, I think, quite easily been the fastest driver on track.
You say that, and in fact he's been into the pits 3 times, and so, I was going to say, I thought Power had an issue then, the way the camera panned over to him. I do apologise to Chris for that. But Will Power still out in the lead, 2.2 seconds clear. Suttle makes a move on one of the Fon Metals, that's not for position, that's him lapping it. And, well, can Sato go after Stevens? The gap is currently 5.2 in Sector 2, so the next sector they'll be going through is the start-finish line. We'll find out what the gap is by the time they do get there.
So going into this race, Tom, the gap between Suttle and Sato in the championship was 0. Suttle only ahead on countback by virtue of having 2 wins to Sato's 1. If they finish together on track, that is a minimal difference between those two, and it's still going to be extremely close in the championship. And don't forget, third place driver in the championship, Jose Maria Lopez, there he is. And we mentioned earlier about the team orders, the Euro run. Maybe this is now coming into effect as Lopez looking to get down the inside of Marcus Winkelhock, and that will be an extra point for Lopez. But if Lopez also gets minimal points, he will still be there or thereabouts with Adrian Suttle and Marino Sato in the championship. Will Power set to get a victory here today, so I think he will take the lead of the championship should it stay like this. But it's still going to be extremely close at the top, Tom, with only 4 rounds left to go.
It's going to most certainly go right down to the wire at Laguna Seca, and the gap between Stevens and Sato is now 3.7 seconds, I would say now, because you can see on the graphic, and they're coming through Sector 2 as you speak, and Sato is now only 3.1 behind Stevens. So this is very much a very rapid performance from Sato. We can see a sack speed of Sam Bird trying to make a move on Alex Lynn outside the top 15. And so Lynn is not going to be getting any points today.
Well, this is going to be very frustrating for Sam Bird, because he's been in the slipstream of Alex Lynn for the last few laps, and he's used that slipstream to get up to the back of him. But then pulling out of the slipstream as Bird now concedes position there to Sergei Sorokin. Bird just doesn't have the legs on the straight. He pulls out of the slipstream. The drag then kicks in from the fresh air, hitting his front nose cone. Then he just doesn't have the legs anymore. That HRT has so much more power than the Zach speed, so Bird can close in the slipstream. But then once he pulls out of that slipstream, he then just doesn't have the power to actually make the move stick. So Bird getting very frustrated and losing his momentum as he now loses out to Sergei Sorokin, actually going backwards instead of forwards. So not a good day for Zangspeed. We've already mentioned it a few times with Jamie Green having had his suspension collapse earlier on in the race, and Bird being punted up the rear by Alexander Rossi. And we believe that the race stewards have put down the Rossi-Bird incident as a racing incident, so no further action on that one. Rossi gets away with it, but Bird not having a good day at the moment and getting very frustrated behind Alex Lynn and now behind Sergei Sorokin.
So just luckily on Mattel there, gets him out of the way. And I don't know whether Stevens got held up by it on this lap. Either way, Sato's closed in on him rapidly now. The gap is less than a second between Stevens and Sato. I think we're going to be seeing a change of position here very, very soon.
We are on lap 30 out of 34. We're winding down towards the end of the League 2 Hockenheim Grand Prix. And Castro Neves putting in a faster lap time on a previous lap than Power and Fuoco. It's 1.2 seconds quicker than Fuoco actually, so maybe a late charge from Castro Neves here to possibly make it a Leighton House 1-2. That would be an incredible result for Chris Cavani and the team. They're not looking to win the championship here, they only want to get promotion into League 1. That is Chris Cavani's only aim going into next season, and if he can do that with the championship, that is just the icing on the cake. Here is Antonio Fuoco in P2, falling behind Will Power now, and maybe about to fall into the clutches of Castro Neves, but I think Castro Neves may be a little bit too far back at this point, and yes, you can see there on the graphic the difference between them, 12.4 seconds, so I think Castro Neves will run out of laps to get the job done on Fuoco, but first and third for Leighton House, still a great result.
And Sato's passed Stevens for 7th place, so Sato just one place behind Suttil now. This is going to be a very interesting one in the fight for the League 2 Drivers' Championship. As you can see, that's what I believe. Is that Will Power who's just coming up to... Well, no, it's not Will Power, it's Helio Castro Neves, isn't it? Because otherwise, Fuoco would be all over the back of the Leighton House, and that's not the Leighton House that we're looking at. But this is Marino Sato in the live that's just got past Stevens, and now he's going after Suttil, who's only 5 seconds up the road. And he's got 4 laps to go after this one, so Sato on the fresher tyres has got enough time to catch him.
4.5 seconds the gap between those two with 4 laps left to run here at the League 2 Hockenheim Grand Prix. We will keep an eye on that gap to see if Sato can close down on his championship rival. That would be a very crucial overtake if he can get it done. Here is your race leader, Will Power, who's been leading for most of this race, and there's always a concern, Tom, about reliability. We say it so many times within a Grand Prix World Series. If you have the most powerful car on the grid, that has probably come at the sacrifice of reliability. But so far, not really an issue. We've had 4 retirements, but none of them have been within the top teams. Will Power leads ahead of Antonio Fuoco. Castro Neves in 3rd, and Sato, he did have an issue earlier but was able to get it sorted and now runs in P7 in his pursuit of Adrian Suttil. So a good day for reliability actually within the League 2 race, at least in the Grand Prix World Series, and it's a day where the most powerful teams can actually get a good result from having good power and not necessarily as good reliability. And Tom, I would have thought that would bode well for the League 1 race later on, especially if your team is Simtech.
Well, Simtech, you know, with the power that they've got, I'd expect them to dominate the race, although they haven't had the most reliable package this season by any stretch. And can we go back to the thing with Suttil and Sato, because Sato's got to get down to less than 4 seconds between us two, and he's not far behind Calamira either, so can Sato all of a sudden get into a top 5 position for the checkered flag?
Waiting for the graphic to update through the next sector. The gap is now less than, just over 3 seconds. It's 3.3 between those two, so Sato absolutely belting in the sector times at the moment in his pursuit of P6, and with how close and competitive this championship is, Tom, that could be a championship winning move if Sato ends up getting the job done.
Yeah, we can just see Will Power getting his way through the back markers, as is, well, looks like Will Stevens is just getting past him, Gaston Mazzacane having another, you know, tough day in the from Metal, and Will Power, he's not having as tough of a day, but he is finding it tough to get through the back markers himself. And that's the sack speed of Sam Bird, who has had another tough afternoon, hasn't he? He's been one of the disappointments of the season for me as Sam Bird, don't you think?
Well, Sam Bird, he is absolutely not lacking in ability at all. I'd actually rate him among the best drivers on the grid at the moment. but the speed and the Zach speed just isn't there. So moving forward in Season 3, Sam Bird possibly thinking about a move to a different team. He will have those discussions with Mike Smith, the team principal there, and they will decide whether Sam Bird wants to continue into Season 3 or not. Could Bird maybe find himself at a League 1 team for Season 3? As I said, he certainly doesn't lack speed, just hasn't had machinery at his disposal. And this man here, Giorgio Pantano, he's picked up a point in his first few races in the Grand Prix World Series, but again, he just doesn't have the machinery to make an impact so far in this championship. The Ford Metal is the slowest car, not just in League 2, but across both leagues actually. Ewan Gale not putting any money at all into improving the power of the car. He's put all of his money into reliability, so the team is there to effectively pick up the pieces in races of attrition, but just doesn't really have the outright speed to get the job done on track. Now Adrian Suttle, and you just caught a glimpse there, Tom. Sato's there or thereabouts, he's closing in.
Yeah, but he's only got 2 laps to do it, so if Sato's going to do it, he needs to do it now.
So going across the line now, what is the gap going to be? It is down to 1.3 seconds. We are on the penultimate lap here in the League 2 Hockenheim Grand Prix, and it's getting so close between those two. It looks like Will Power is going to go through and complete a fine drive for his second victory of the season. And Fuoco will come home in P2. Cashineves all alone there in P3. He's 14.3 behind Fuoco and about 20 seconds ahead of Alan McNish in P4. Now, this could play a factor here, Tom. Traffic.
Yep, and Lopez going by some traffic himself in 9th place. He won't be troubling Stevens, as he's going to run out of time before the checkered flag. You just need to see where Sato is now behind Suttel, because the gap is 9 seconds. Suttel running wide on the curbs there of the exit of the Yost curve. And there is Sato behind.
It's getting very close between those two. We have about a lap and a sector left to go here in the Grand Prix. And this is getting tense between those two. These are the two championship leaders. 0 points separates them at the top of the standings. The only thing that separates them is countback, which goes in Suttel's favour. And is this going to be a pivotal overtake that Sato is about to pull off if he does indeed make that move past the HRT? Both John Monroe of HRT and Andrew Sampson of the Life will both be looking at this, biting their fingernails. I wonder if they're going to have any left by the end of this race. This is so tense, and Sam Bird getting out of the way of Antonio Fuoco there. The gap between the leaders is 1.9 seconds, and Will Power right there in traffic. He will want to dispatch that as quickly as he can. We've got half a lap left to go here in this race. Is traffic going to play a factor and decide the outcome of this race? Will Power certainly hopes not, but Antonio Fuoco certainly hopes it does. On the run down now to the centre curve. And is Fuoco going to be able to eat into that lead that Power has? The gap is down to 1 second here. So Fuoco really closing in now on the back of the Australian, who is in traffic. He's got Valentino Rossi and Alex Lynn in front of him. This is not what Will Power wants. He's now got the Sachs curve to navigate with Alex Lynn right in front of him. Alex Lynn's not getting out of the way. So this could end up being a grandstand finish between those two. Alex Lynn holding firm. Even though he's about to be lapped, he's not doing Will Power any favours at all, but I think Will Power might just get away with it. And out of the final corner, he does indeed. Will Power comes through to win the League 2 Hockenheim Grand Prix ahead of Antonio Fuoco. Oh, Tom, that was really tense towards the end. That could have gone either way.
He could have done both. Will Power had it all under control himself. Suttel is still ahead of Sato on the last lap as Cashineves comes home in 3rd place. Another good haul of points for Leighton House. Alan McNish should be coming through in 4th. There he is, look, through the stadium section. What a result for Gemma Dixon, with him finishing 4th. And Lundgaard just outside the points in 11th, but should be happy with this result. Callum Ilott 5th, much needed points for LaRousse. Sato has got by Suttel on the last lap, he's done it.
Oh, we didn't quite catch it on the camera, but Sato getting past Suttel, 4th-6th position. What I think must have been maybe the penultimate corner, actually. So I was trying to look at it on the graphic. We saw them coming through the final corner with Sato ahead of Suttel, so I'm wondering if that happened maybe at the Opel curve, the one before the final curve, which is the Sud curve. And there is Christian Lundgaard just outside of the points, not quite picking up anything for Scuderia Coloni. And the final few finishes Now coming through here is Scott Speed at the Sachs Curve, down in P14. Now Scott Speed, we thought he might have been one of the drivers fighting for the championship this season, but just hasn't really found any speed, if you pardon the name pun there. Down in P14, and the Modena will come across the line now to finish the race. Valentino Rossi will be in P15. And, well, it's a dominant... it appears to be dominant for Will Power in some ways, but it's only 1.5 seconds at the end, which is a bit closer than Will Power would have liked. But it doesn't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Will Power has taken victory today in Hockenheim in the League 2 race, and here are your official results. Will Power wins the race, and I believe he will assume the lead of the championship as well. Antonio Fuoco in second, and Hideo Castro-Neves making it 2 Leighton Houses on the podium. Alain Bagnish P4 ahead of Callum Ilott, and Marino Sato nicking P6 off Adrian Sutil, effectively on the line there. Will Stevens in 8th, and Jose Maria Lopez getting the extra points over Marcus Fingerhock in P9 and P10. Christian Lundgaard misses out on points in P11. Brendan Hartley in 12th ahead of Rossi, Speed and the other Rossi. Then a lap down, Alex Lynn, Sam Bird, Sergei Sorokin, Mike Conway, Alex Zanardi, Gaston Mazzucani and Giorgio Pantano. And then our retirements, Jerome D'Ambrosio, Sergio Sette Camara, Jamie Green and Oliver Turvey. Our fastest lap goes to Marino Sato, so he picks up an extra point there for himself and for the Life team. Tom, that was an absolutely cracking race there. A lot of action going on, a lot of slipstreaming, a lot of overtaking, and a much better reliability than we thought there'd be.
Yeah, and I think that's a record now for the Grand Prix World Series. 22 finishes, which beats what we had in the League 1 race in Taupo, which was 21. So a good old day for the teams in terms of getting cars to the end. At least every team got at least one car to the end of the race. And could we see the same in League 1? Who knows?
And I've just had confirmation come through, Tom. Will Power does indeed take the lead of the championship. 113 points now for the Australian. 13 ahead of Marino Sato, who is now on exactly 100. 3 ahead of Adrian Sutil on 97. And Jose Maria Lopez on 92. Still very close and very competitive in the championship. We have 4 races left to go for League 1. But before we get on to the next race next week, which will be in Estoril, we still have League 1 to go, but we're going to take a quick break. Make sure you stick around. We have another hugely exciting race coming up for you in a bit. See you then.
Ah, what music!
There is no terrible way to win. There is only winning.
We won't be out long.
Take your time. Track's all yours.
You ready? The name on the middle of that steering wheel should tell you that I was born ready. Hit it.
Attaboy. Let me drive. I will make a fool out of you.
I got a message for all of them. Shake and bake. What does that do? Does that blow your mind? That just happened.
These cars, you sit in a box, a coffin, gasoline all around you. It isn't like being inside a bomb.
It's tough enough being a girl on the track. Living in my dad's shadow doesn't help much.
You have to be kind to the car. You feel the poor thing groaning underneath you.
No race was ever won in the first corner.
I'm gonna give you an engine, low to the ground, extra big oil pan will cut the wind from underneath you. That'll give you 30 to 40 more horsepower.
Every one of us has to find a reason to do this. You do it because you're driven.
Brakes are warm, tires are warm.
I'll work in the cars and I'll drive and I'll eat and sleep and I'll work in the cars and I'll drive.
Damn fast, and when he runs it close together, it requires fantastic concentration and rather special skills.
I was beginning to think I'd never be anything more than a piston-happy lead-foot punk. Then this starts to happen.
If you're going to push a piece of machinery to the limit and expect it to hold together, you have to have some sense of where that limit is.
Besides, the best drivers don't dwell on the future or the past. The best drivers focus only on the present.
They could never have imagined it, those pioneers who invented the automobile, that it would possess us like this in our imaginations, our dreams.
I'm gonna give you a fuel line that will hold an extra gallon of gas. I'm gonna shave half an inch off you and shape you like a bullet.
Somebody put it in your mind you gotta be perfect every time out or you're a failure. Well, forget that. Just forget it.
Racing is in my blood.
I was put on this earth to race cars.
I accept every time I get in my car. There's 20% chance I could die, and I can live with it, but not 1% more.
No, Nicky, don't bring the percentages into this. Don't be a pro. The minute you do that, you kill what's good about this. You kill the sport.
And at that speed, your reactions can barely keep up with these sudden changes in direction.
You ready to put away your toys and grow up?
You want me to work the pit and you drive? Fine, we'll try that.
The car's a living, breathing thing, and she's alive.
If any of us imagined, really imagined, what it would be like to go into a tree at 150 miles an hour, we would probably never get into the cars at all. None of us.
Are you ready to become a real race car driver?
I am just as good as anybody out there on that track, and I don't need anybody to win my races for me.
I wish my daddy were alive to see this, to feel this. And when we get you primed, painted, and weighed, you'll be ready to go out on that racetrack. You hear me? You're gonna do perfect.
You don't understand what happens, do you? They make 10,000 cars, they make them exactly the same way, and one or two of them turn out to be something special. Nobody knows why.
When I won it was probably the last time I ever felt pure victory.
So it has always seemed to me that to do something very dangerous requires a certain absence of imagination.
Because I'm quicker than all of you.
Soon you will know what it is like to be defeated by the hands of somebody who is truly better than you.
The only thing to do here is to drive just as fast as you know how and hope your car doesn't break.
And if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
If you ain't first, you're last. There's 40 other vultures out there who managed to finish the race on their tires. You see Darren Waltrip using up his tires?
There's nothing I can't do with a race car.
Oh, hell, isn't that what we're in this for? To stare death in the face and to cheat it? Come on, there's nobility in that. It's like being knights.
Sometimes you could swear the whole thing's falling to bits.
No pressure, nobody breathing down my back, just driving because I left it pure.
On the other hand, I suppose potential problems are in the back of your mind all the time.
So in many ways, I feel responsible for what happened. And
You were, but trust me, watching you win those races while I was fighting for my life, you were equally responsible for getting me back in the car.
You're so lucky. Sit there all closed in by machinery and bolts, precise things. There's hardly any room for you. It must be a nice, safe feeling.
Yeah, you gotta learn to trust something. Might just as well be the seat of your pants.
A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
Well, we can drive. We can drive beyond the limits of the tires, the engine, the car, anything else.
Look out there. Out there is the perfect lap. No mistakes. Every gear change, every corner. Perfect. You see it.
I just hope when you do, that I'm there to see it.
Ask any racer, any real racer. It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
But it isn't just business, is it? What we do. It's passion, love, which is why we are prepared to risk our lives for it.
Racing. That's the name of the game, isn't it? Win or lose, put up or shut up.
Why does everybody keep telling me what my problem
It's that
is?
you get so emotional.
You would never, ever say that to a guy.
If you don't leave your feelings off the track, you're never going to get what you want.
I'm a race driver, and I can win it on my own. Please let me race.
fine. Then let's race.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, here once again in Hockenheim. And this time, it is the turn of the League 1 teams to do battle through the forest of Hockenheim. And if League 2 race is anything to go by, we should be in for another crack of a race today, Tom.
This is pretty much the Premier League of the Grand Prix World Series. It's the top league where we've got drivers, teams battling it out for the titles, just like you see normally in Formula 1. And of course, relegation, which 3 teams will go down to League 2 for next season. And at the moment, in terms of the battle for survival, it's very much hotting up.
And this is going to be a crucial race for more reasons than one, Tom. Not only is it crucial as far as the championship is concerned, but after this race we will also have an upgrade window. So throughout the season, teams, they earn prize money from their results. So if you win races, you get more prize money, and if you finish out to the points, you get less prize money. And with an upgrade window coming up at the end of this race, Tom, the teams and drivers will want to get every result they can.
Yeah, I agree, and this is very, very crucial for those who are in desperate need of points to stay up, or teams that are desperately in need of a good result to stay in the hunt for the title. Most especially for the Drivers' Championship, Topher, because this is very much turning into a very, very close contest between a considerable number of drivers involved.
Well, let's have a quick look at the team standings at the moment. Scott Dixon, his win last time out of Manicourt propelled him from 8th to 1st in the standings. We mentioned it at the top of last broadcast, Tom. The top 8 could have walked away with the lead of the championship, and as it was the guy who was in 8th who took the win and took the lead in the championship.
And with Scott Dixon, who's got 3 wins this season to his name already, including France last time out, we've got to remember, since Stoffel van Dorn came back into the team at round 4 of the season at Hockenheim, Simtek have taken pole position at every single round since then.
Scott Woodward's going for the win or bust approach. He's put a lot of power into his Simtek, but not really so much reliability. So it always begs the question, Tom. He's got the quickest car on the grid, but he's also got one of the least reliable on the grid. Will that play a factor here today? We can only wait and see what happens in the race this day. Scott Dixon will go from pole position ahead of Stoffel Van Dorn. Simtek locking out the front row once again. These other drivers will have a lot to say about that. Robin Frains, second in the championship, only 2 points behind Dixon. He's yet to win a race this season as Frains, but he's been so consistent. He's up there fighting for the championship. Could that change today? The same can also be said of his teammate, Antonio Felix da Costa, who has, again, not won a race this season. He's there or thereabouts. Can that all change here today? Andre Lotterer and Nico Hülkenberg, the two Germans on home turf, third and fourth in the championship. Both of them, they also have a good chance of taking the championship lead here today. Sebastian Buemi and Kevin Magnussen equal on 71 points in 6th and 7th. Stoffel Van Dorn, he needs a good result today if he's going to get himself back up into contention for the championship. And then Marco Andretti and Kazuki Nakajima both there in the top 10 as well. So competitive, Tom. I can't wait for this one.
Can't wait for it as well, and there's quite a number of drivers who've done better than expected in qualifying as well. That's worth to take note of, Topher, including Marco Wittmann on home turf, qualifying his Prost in 8th place on the grid.
Well, just before we show you the grid and get down to trackside, a quick look at the team standings, and Super Guri has a gap of 5 points over Simtek. That one is hotting up between those two. Then there's a bit of a gap down to Onyx and Arrows, 3rd and 4th. 3 points between those two. Then BMS Scuderia Italia and AGS also there on 123 and 121 respectively. We've got 6 teams all on 120 points plus in this. It's been very high scoring between those top 6. And I think realistically, Tom, any of those top 6 I think could still walk away with a title at the end of the season.
Yeah, it's very close, isn't it? Any one of them could be leading the championship after this round, couldn't they? Although, apart from AGS, because Simtek have already got the point for the pole position. But it's anyone's game in the race for the title. BAR looks safe from relegation, as do Manor, but the likes of Midland, Forty, Prost and Minardi still battling to beat the drop, with MasterCard Lola almost certain to go down.
If you're in the top 10 in League 1, you stay in League 1 for Season 3 if you're in the bottom 3 teams. You get relegated down to League 2. A lot to play for within the Grand Prix World Series. And as for here in Hockenheim, we are set for a fantastic League 1 race. And here is your grid. Scott Dixon and Stoffel Van Dorn lock out the front row for Simtek again. It's a pole position for Simtek. They're 6th in a row here today. Antonio Felix da Costa will want to get his championship back on track, having not scored in the last 3 races. He lines up 3rd on the grid today. Sebastian Buemi's in 4th ahead of Robin Frains alongside Kevin Magnussen on row 3. Row 4, Pascal Wehrlein and Marco Wittmann, his best qualifying of the season so far. 8th place in the Prost. Can he pick up his first points of the season here today? Marco Andretti on row 5 alongside Nelson Piquet Jr. wanting to make it 4 point scoring finishes from 4 races. Nick de Vries on row 6 alongside Paul de Resta, and then Nico Hülkenberg and Sebastian Bourdais make up row 7. Row 8, race 1, race winner Kamui Kobayashi. Missing my words a little bit there. Kamui Kobayashi at the head of row 8 alongside Roy Nissany in the 40 Corsi. Andre Lotterer, championship contender on row 9 alongside Kazuki Nakajima in P18. Daniel Candea and Roman Grosjean in the Manor make up row 10 ahead of Jaime Alguersuari and Mika Salo. Simona Di Silvestro and Thiago Montero are on row 12. And at the back, it is Tom Christensen in the Minardi and Tatiana Calderon in the Mastercard Lola. There, Tom, reliability wasn't so much of a factor in League 2. Could that be a good omen for Simtek here today?
Well, Scott West will most especially be thinking so, because this is a golden opportunity once again for his boys to come home with a 1-2 finish. But will it stay that way come the end? We'll find out right now.
And they are off and away in Hockenheim. It is a good start for Scott Dixon. Van Dorn looking to get down the inside into turn 1. Trying to make a move here. Oh, there's contact! The two Simteks have come together. And Scott Dixon missing a rear wing there. Van Dorn hitting his teammate up the back there. And Dixon's now plummeting down the order as Van Dorn has taken the lead through that. Scott Dixon, he will be absolutely livid with that. The two Simteks coming together. I wonder what Scott Woodward is thinking right now, seeing his two drivers collide like that, and coming down into the Clark curve, and Tony Felix da Costa makes a move past Van Dorn for the lead. So da Costa, a championship leader earlier on in the season, yet to win a race, he's now in the lead. Scott Dixon causing a little bit of a traffic jam there down into the first chicane. Grosjean getting a little bit of a tap there from behind by, I think that was Simona Di Silvestro. And I'm trying to find the worst, Tom. We've had the SimTech team fighting for the championship, and their two drivers have come together and surrendered the lead to this man, Antonio Felix da Costa.
That's the worst start that Scott Woodward would have been hoping for. That's the last thing he needs. Those two coming together down at turn 1 as well.
Oh, and teammates have come together again there. The MasterCard Lola duo of Calderon and Di Silvestro, they've had a little nudge together into the Ostkurve. So, it's not a good day for teammates, is it, Tom?
No, definitely not. And through all that, believe it or not, Marco Wittmann from 8th on the grid is up to 3rd place.
That is a cracking start there for the home favourite, Marco Wittmann, looking to get his first points of the season. 8th to 3rd at the start, of course benefiting from the two SimTechs coming together. Oh, it's a Frames off! Frames has gone off as well in what was exactly the same way as Oliver Turvey in the League 2 race earlier on. Robin Frames out of this race. Let's get a replay of it. Was there a coming together with one of the AGSs there? I think that was unfair.
No, I think he lost it all by himself, to be honest with you. So for Frames getting on the curb on the outside and just caught it rather awkwardly, and it just, separated the car in pieces. And that's one Super Guri out, the other leading the hands of Antonio Felix da Costa, who's yet to win in the Grand Prix World Series, and he has a golden opportunity to get back into the lead of the standings.
Well, I think that's probably the most eventful first lap we've ever seen in the Grand Prix World Series, Tom. Let's just have a quick recap here. The first corner, Scott Dixon and Stoffel Van Dorn, the two SimTechs come together. Dixon is now into the pits for repairs. We have the two MasterCard Lolas of Calderon and Di Silvestro come together as well. Wittmann goes up from 8th to 3rd. And Andretti's lost his front wing there, I think, going across the curves at the Clark curve. And yeah, you can see the left part of the front wing has gone. So it's not a good day for quite a few of the drivers here today, as the man is now plummeting down the order. And then just to cap off what was happening in League 1, Robin Frames then goes and has an accident into the Algib curve, and he's now out of the race. And Robin Frames, don't forget, 2nd in the championship. That's going to be an absolute blow to his title hopes.
Very certainly so, and there's still some drivers trying to get through past Andretti. So Andretti qualified brilliantly for this one, has had a race to forget so far, as Lotterer, Junkendaya and Voto Montero's out in the Midland.
So, and that is through a reliability issue, our first reliability problem of the day. Thiago Montero is on fire and his mechanics are terrified as a result of that. Montero pulls off to the side of the circuit, and he is our second retirement out of the League 1 Hockenheim Grand Prix.
So one of Michael Gillespie's cars out of the running there. Andretti will be making his way back into the pits for a new nose. Verline's up to 4th place, Boemi 5th, Magnussen 6th.
Oh my goodness, the Marshall causing some damage there. The Marshalls this season been a little bit haphazard with their recovery of the cars. We've seen it a few times this season, Tom. They've been recovering cars to the side of the circuit, but then in some cases causing them a bit more damage.
Yeah, and just looking as the drivers cross over the line to start lap 3, Van Dorn 7/10 of a second behind Da Costa. I just wonder how many times these two are going to be battling on circuit before Marco Wittmann gets close to them. I would think they'll pull away from him in terms of raw pace, but if they keep tossing amongst each other, that's going to give Marco Wittmann a chance. But Wittmann will know that Prost need this position.
So Wittmann may be thinking 3rd place, that's good enough, let's just bring it home. And at the moment he's 3 seconds off the lead. Now, between Van Dorn and Da Costa, the SimTech does have more power than the Super Aguri. The SimTech is the most powerful car on the grid. But the Super Aguri isn't exactly lacking either. There's a good amount of power behind the Ford engine that they have on board. So Antonio Felix da Costa trying to make it work here today. He's yet to take a victory, not just this season, but just in the Grand Prix World Series as a whole. He came into the championship midway through last season with the MasterCard Loader team. He was out on loan from Super Aguri, being their reserve driver at the time. He did a few races for them at the tail end of season 1. Promoted up to a race seat full time in Season 2 with Super Guri, and he's been fighting for the championship but has yet to take a race win. So, will this be the day that changes for Antonio Fix da Costa? And looking at the YouTube live chat here, Ricardo P41 saying, Rule 1 of racing. And Tom, you know what the first rule of racing is.
Yep, do not take out your teammate. You know, even from the first day you start racing for your team, do not take out your teammate, even in junior categories. You can see Nakajima making a move on Kamui Kobayashi's arrows for 13th position. Nakajima, the two Japanese drivers going head to head, and it's Nakajima who gets in front.
So a good move there from Nakajima, who has put in some good results so far this season. He's not been there fighting for the championship so far as a Japanese driver, but he's put in some really good performances. He picked up a podium at the Adelaide Grand Prix earlier on in the season. Has also got a couple of 4th place finishes since then. Ryan Ferris and the Onyx team, they will have liked to have got a bit more from this season. They do have finally their first race victory of the season, actually. Sebastian Bourdais, who was dropped at the end of Season 1. And we got a problem there for Van Dorn. Van Dorn's engine is going. So, we mentioned it earlier, Tom, about reliability. It has been a terrible day for Simtek. They locked out the front row, but then they've had a coming together between the two teammates of Van Dorn and Dixon, who's just set a fastest lap, ironically. But now Van Dorn's engine is expiring, and he is going to be out of the League 1 Hockenheim Grand Prix, and this car's now on fire.
Yeah, I think Van Dorn will want to be getting off the track as soon as he can, really. Wittmann just needs to get past him rather safely here, which I think he will do before the centre curve. Wittmann's through up fine. What about the other drivers behind? Because I think Verline should be through safely, as is Boemi. Now Magnussen will be hoping to get through safely as well.
Here we go. Van Dorn is indeed pulling over to the side of the circuit. That is, they've done it. Oh my goodness, a bit of damage across the gravel there. These cars have been very fragile this season. There's been a lot of flying wheels, a lot of flying carbon, and even a little bit of a nudge on the side pod there falling off as Van Dorn is craned off the circuit. So, another retirement for the Simtek team. We keep saying it time and time again, Tom. They have an exceptionally fast package, but it's not the most reliable. And in some cases, it works out well for Scott Woodwist, but in other cases, it comes back to bite him.
Yeah, we can see a battle here between the 40th Nissani and Junkendaya. And Junkendaya, is he going to pull off a fascinating move here on the 40? Not quite so, but he's been brilliant. Oh, he's still in there actually, Junkendaya. And he nearly got it done there at the, can't remember the name of the curve before the start-finish straight. It was after the Sats curve anyway, that Junkendaya nearly pulled off the move on the 40.
So, great battle there between those two. Side by side for multiple corners, and Junkendaya getting back up the inside of Nissani again, and that's Roman Grosjean trying to go with him. Nowhere to go for Grosjean as he's got two cars in front of him. And Grosjean, you can see that he's getting up to the back of him time and time again, but just not able to find a way past the 40 Corsi at the moment. With Junkendaya there as well, and the Minardi makes a move through into P14, and Nissani now under threat from Roman Grosjean in the manner Grosjean brought in as a replacement for Alex Albon a couple of races ago. And Grosjean, I hear from Sam Hall that he is one of the favourites to retain his manor seat going into Season 3. And Grosjean now makes a move through into P15. And behind them, Simone Di Silvestro, she's having a great run at the moment actually. She had that coming together with Calderon earlier on, Tom. That was when they were running in last and second last. But look where Di Silvestro is now. She's in P16. Brilliant performance so far from the Swiss miss. She's moving up through the order.
Most certain so, Mascot Lola. They look certain to go down, but they don't want to go down without a fight. And Di Silvestro is trying to put herself in the market for next season, perhaps, because I mean, imagine there'll be quite a few managers who will be thinking about wanting to put some female drivers into their cars.
Well, with Mastercard Lola, it has been confirmed that they will not be with a manager at the end of the season. Alan Schull is parting ways and moving on to a new project in Season 3. So Mastercard Lola is up for grabs going into Season 3, but that might well be from League 2 should anyone pick up that team. Looking through the order here, we've got two Germans on for a podium at the moment, Tom. We've got Wittmann in second and Wehrlein in third. It's a good day for the German contingent at the moment, and Kobayashi's in for a very early pit stop there. That's pitting from P20, Tom, so I wonder if Kobayashi's had an issue of some sort.
Yeah, he must have done. He's too early in the race to be making a scheduled stop, so he's probably had some throttle issues, I would say, on the arrows. But he's well down the order, really trying behind Scott Dixon, who continues to be setting fastest laps. I think he's got past He's not got past the Mastercard Lola of Calderon yet. He goes past the 40 of Mika Salo. So it's not just Di Silvestro pulling off the moves today. Calderon is as well.
I've just heard from Scott Woodward, the team manager of the Syntec team. He's got his head in his hands. He is not at all happy with how the start of this race has gone. Just to recap their day so far, locking out the front row and then Van Dorn into the back of Dixon at the first corner, breaking off Dixon's rear wing, and then Van Dorn retiring with an engine issue. It has not gone at all well for Scott Woodward and the team. I don't blame him at all for having his head in his hands, but that can be the price you pay sometimes for not putting the money into the reliability of the car. He definitely has the fastest car on the grid, but also one of the least reliable. I'm afraid that is what happens if you don't invest in the reliability side as well as the power side.
So Buemi on course for another good result for BAR. De Vries also up in 7th place. So Tom Butterworth having a better day of it all for the team. And Piquet Jr. up to 6th for BMS Scuderia Italia. He's made a cracking start in this one. Emma Featherstone will be very, very pleased with his progress.
Piquet Jr., he has had a brilliant start to his Grand Prix World Series career. He came in for the Birmingham Super Prix in place of his countryman Pietro Fittipaldi. Emma Featherstone taking the decision to switch those two drivers around. And since then, Piquet has scored a 7th, a 10th and a 6th. And at the moment he's on course for another 6th place finish, which would be 4 points finishes from 4 races. And as we mentioned about the driver market going into Season 3, Tom, I think Piquet Jr. is more than likely going to be in the driver's seat for a retention with BMS Scuderia Italia for next season. As will Andre Lotterer, who's got a race win this season and is in contention for the championship, so I'm expecting no change at that team going into Season 3.
I'm just looking at Dixon. He's just got past 2 cars on that one straight there. The 40 of Salo and the Mastercard Lola of Calderon. And now he's going to be blitzing through this field, isn't he? And we're only on lap 7, so Dixon, who will be absolutely incensed inside that helmet. He's just wants to get by this. Oh, he nearly run right onto the grass whilst he tries to get past Christensen. And that's not going to do him any favours, but that tells you everything about Dixon inside him.
We have some really close battles going on in this race. It's a 4-way battle at the moment for what I think will be P15 or 16 at the moment. Yeah, P16, because you've got Alguersuari and Nissani up ahead, so then you've got Christensen and now riding on board with Scott Dixon. You can see the power advantage that the Syntec has there, closing in on the back. And for a moment we thought Da Costa might have been out there. It looked like he might have been off the track in the distance, but no, he continues on in the lead. Da Costa looking for his first ever Grand Prix World Series victory. And he's got a good gap over Marco Wittmann at the moment, so feeling quite comfortable in P1 at the moment. 3 retirements so far. Robin Fraines, Thiago Montero and Stoffel Van Dorn. Lap 8 out of 34. Da Costa leads ahead of Marco Wittmann. Pascal Wehrlein putting 2 Germans on the podium as it stands. Sebastian Buemi in P4 ahead of Kevin Magnussen, both AGF drivers in the top 5. That'll be a good day for Phil Kinch if he can bring that home. Nelson Piquet Jr. in P6, Nick De Vries in 7th ahead of Sebastian Bourdais, Paul Di Resta in the sole remaining Midland is in 9th, and Nico Hulkenberg in P10.
As it stands with the positions as they are, Prost would leap out of the relegation zone.
And that is absolutely crucial as we get towards the tail end of the season. The bottom 3 teams will be relegated down into League 2 at the end of the season following the Laguna Seca Grand Prix. So every point counts. Prost currently sitting within those bottom 3 positions, but 2nd place here for Marco Wittmann would give them 18 points, and as it stands would put them above the likes of Midland going into the next race at Estoril. So as I said, Tom, every point counts.
Yeah, I'm just comparing the lap times. Wittmann's 7/10 slower than Da Costa on that lap, but he's faster than Wehrlein and Buemi.
I've just had word through from race control. The turn 1 incident between Van Dorn and Dixon. No further action. The stewards deeming it a racing incident on the first lap. It's bad for Scott Woodward that it's between his 2 drivers, but as far as the stewards are concerned, it was a simple turn 1 racing incident.
Yeah, I agree with that. I felt that Dixon, I feel that Dixon has to take as much blame for the accident as Van Dorn does, because whilst Van Dorn made perhaps an over-ambitious manoeuvre on the inside, Dixon didn't quite leave enough space when he needed to have done.
So 6 of one, half a dozen of the other between the 2 Syntec drivers, and Dixon now well out of the points and Van Dorn well out of the race. So They will still pick up a point at least for pole position for Scott Dixon. Can they also get another point for the fastest lap? I think Scott Dixon does have the fastest lap as it stands at the moment, but that might change as we get further into this race. When drivers come in for fresh tyres, we will keep an eye on it. But I believe as it stands, Dixon will pick up 2 points for pole position and for the fastest lap. Now here is Marco Wittmann putting in his best performance of the season so far. 7.3 seconds off the lead. But I think he won't be too fussed about catching up to Da Costa. He'll be thinking, I'm in for a good haul of points there, and this could be very helpful for Prost getting out of the relegation zone. And he went from 8th to 2nd in this race, 8th to 3rd on just the first lap alone. And Wittmann showing just why Tom Cairns alongside me put the faith in him to sign him instead of Pedro de la Rosa.
He's very much showing it now as Verlaine goes defensive with Buemi. So whilst these two are battling, that's going to allow Wittmann to pull off into the distance as Piquet Jr. becomes the first of those to come in for a scheduled pit stop.
So it's around about this time in the League 2 race that we saw the 2 stoppers coming in. The first one was again on lap 10, and this time around it is Nelson Piquet Jr. coming in from 6th position, and that will definitely be a 2-stop strategy. I can't see him going on to the end of the race from here. Now here's his teammate Andre Lotterer trying to get himself up into P9 here. I think he is going to make the move stick. Lotterer, another driver who is enjoying his home Grand Prix at the moment. We've cut away to our race leader, Da Costa. Just the wrong time there, but you can tell on the graphic that Andre Lotterer has indeed made the move stick on Nico Hülkenberg, the 2 Germans there fighting it out for the lower points paying positions. Now Pascal Wehrlein, another home favourite. We mentioned it earlier, Tom, there's quite a few Germans in this championship, all enjoying their home event here today. You've got Wittmann in 2nd, Wehrlein in 3rd, Lotterer in 9th, and Hülkenberg in 10th. So 4 Germans within the points. It's quite a good day in Hockenheim, isn't it?
Yeah, most certainly so. Piquet Jr. was able to get out in front of Dixon, but I think even with Piquet Jr. on the fresher tyres than Dixon, I don't think he's going to hold him off.
Now, when is Antonio Felix da Costa going to come into the pits? We don't know yet whether he will be on a 2-stopper or a 1-stopper, but as it stands, he's enjoying quite a comfortable lead at the moment, so I don't think he's going to be pushing that car too hard, and he can just bring it to the end of the race. And I think Wehrlein has just pulled into pits as Buemi's now showing in P3, and there we go, the graphics just changed. Wehrlein into the pit, so we will stay on board with him here to see how much fuel he puts on board that AGS. And it is indeed going to be a 2-stop strategy. He's going on to around about lap 26. So 2-stop there for Pascal Wehrlein. Will that bring him a podium later on? We still have a long way to go here in Hockenheim, and he's got Sebastian Buemi wanting to do something about that. Kevin Magnussen also there in P4 now. Can he maybe challenge for a podium later in this race? We still have a lot of action left to come here today. We are on lap 11 out of 34, and we're starting to see the first round of pit stops coming through now.
So Wehrlein's crucially rejoined some clean air, so that's good news in his fight with Buemi and Wittmann. There's Scott Dixon in 14th place at the moment. Now, he's not got a problem, has he? I think he's got a problem actually, so yes he has, he's in trouble.
And it is an end to the day for Simtech. It's been a miserable few laps for Scott Woodward and the team, and that compounds his misery. It's a suspension failure for Scott Dixon, and he is out of the Hockenheim Grand Prix. I think he did pick up the fastest lap though, Tom, so if it stays that way, that will be 2 points, but I think that might have been the best they could hope for after all that's gone on so far.
What a terrible day for Scott Woodward. He cannot believe he's lost both his cars in the opening few laps as Da Costa does pit in from the race lead. Now, will Wittmann stay out another lap? Is he going to try the 1-stop perhaps?
Quite possibly. We will wait to see when Wittmann comes in, but Da Costa now in. I think that's a Prost mechanics right there waiting as well. And Wittmann is indeed into pits. Buemi goes through into the lead, and it is a 2-stop strategy for both of these drivers here. Da Costa heading out back onto the circuit now, and Wittmann will be released from his pits at any moment now. He is indeed. It's a good pit stop there from the Prost team, and he is away.
So where will he feed back out? I would think he's going to rejoin behind Lotterer, Hülkenberg. Wehrlein's the one we need to look out for because he's coming down the start-finish straight now, but I think Wittmann's going to get out ahead of him. So Prost's decision to bring Wittmann in to cover off Wehrlein has paid off so far, although Wehrlein's tyres are going to be up to temperature.
Well, we saw in the League 2 race, Tom, there was an undercut attempt from who was it? I think it's from Sato earlier on in the race. Sorry, no, it's Fuoco. It's one life car, so I think it's Fuoco. But the undercut had absolutely no effect in this race. So Wittmann and Wehrlein basically running as you were in this race, are now in P9 and P10, but they have come into the pits. A lot of drivers ahead of them, still yet to pit. Having a quick look at the YouTube live chat here, a little bit of an argument going on. All I will say, guys, is behave. Don't let this descend into an argument. We're all friends here. We all like to enjoy a bit of racing, so whatever differences you have, let's put them aside and actually enjoy the racing, shall we? We ride on board with Nick de Vries in P3 at the moment. There's Calderon trying to get past, I think that's Mika Salo in a 40 Corsi, and indeed. So Lola's actually looking very racy here today, Tom. We saw Di Silvestro earlier on making up quite a few positions from the back of the field. Calderon's now up into P15. It's a brilliant run for the Lolas so far.
Yeah, and Calderon's still in the tussle with Salo as they come down towards the centre curve. Salo down the inside and he's back through again. This is great racing actually between the 40 and the MasterCard Lola. Sebastian Buemi out in front. Is he going to try the one-stop, do you reckon, Topher?
It's very possible. We have seen a few different strategies throughout the course of the season. Sometimes the one-stopper works, sometimes two-stopper works. We just saw in the foreground there, Solo around the outside of Calderon there. So those two having a right old battle there ahead of this man, Kazuki Nakajima in the Onyx, not really having the result, the race he would have wanted in Hockenheim. He'll want to be up there fighting for the points, but we still have a long way to go. Anything can happen in this race, and it usually does. Sebastian Buemi in the lead ahead of Kevin Magnussen and Nick de Vries, the top three still yet to pit, so not actually in the lead of this race. That honour is with Antonio Felix da Costa, who is 1 second behind Nick de Vries here, so on the fresher tyres he's closing in on the back of the Dutchman and will want to make the move through as soon as he can. And this battle still rages on between Tatiana Calderon and Mika Salo down the inside into the Clark curve there. So Calderon taking back P15 from the 40 Corsi there. Here is Kevin Magnussen in P2. Magnussen, a race winner this season. He's had a fantastic season, has the Dane. He was on the verge of being dropped earlier on in the season, but then when that threat came through, he upped his game. He took a second place finish in Istanbul, and then at the next race took a win at the Birmingham Super Prix. So Phil Kinch very happy with what he's doing now this season. There is a difference between de Vries and da Costa. Da Costa has come into pits. He's effectively a pit stop ahead of de Vries here, and will want to make the move through as soon as possible to make the fresh tyres work down into the Nordkurven. Or de Vries not making it at all easy there for our net race leader, but da Costa trying to get that slipstream back off the BAR now, and he pulls out of the slipstream. Is he going to get the power down straight? I think he is. The Super Aguri does have a few more legs on it than the BAR, and you can see there da Costa is indeed getting the move done and is through into P3. And is de Vries going to come down the inside again here? No, da Costa cuts him off. So da Costa finally gets the move done on the Dutchman, through into third place, and now has a clear run ahead of him with Buemi and Magnussen up the road.
Wittmann's also got past Hockenberg on this lap as well, so Wittmann finding some pace on his second set of tyres. Andre Lotterer, his compatriot, is the next one up from him, a couple of seconds adrift.
Looking in the YouTube live chat, Ricardo P41 asking, has Hockenberg secured a podium in this series, or is he still cursed? Well, he didn't pick up any victories in Season 1. He picked up a couple of podiums, but in this season, he has secured 4 podiums so far, and 1 victory. He is now actually a race winner at the Fuji Grand Prix, round 5 of the championship, so it's never happened in the real life world of Formula 1, but here in the Grand Prix World Series, anything is possible, and Nico Hülkenberg has finally become a Grand Prix winner. So a fantastic result for him. And for the Yaris team, can he pick up another one before season's end? We will see in the last 5 rounds. This is the 5th to last round of the championship. We are here in Hockenheim. Next we will be going to Estoril, then after that Brno in the Czech Republic, then Buenos Aires in Argentina, and then finally Laguna Seca in America. As Simone Di Silvestro is on fire, and a great run for the Swiss Miss in the MasterCard Lola comes to an end as she pulls over to the side of the circuit and becomes our 5th retirement.
And Buemi came into the pits for his, what could well be his only stop of the race. It'd probably be a 2 if I'm honest with you, because we're still yet to reach half distance. But yeah, still an effort there from Di Silvestro, all ending in a blaze. What a shame.
So, 5 retirements: Robin Frain, Thiago Monteiro, Stoffel Van Dorn, Scott Dixon and Simona Di Silvestro, both Syntex out of the races. Not the best of days for Scott Woodward. Still very much a championship contender this season, going with his win or bust approach. It pays off on some days, but not on others. So, maybe next time, Tom. Esteril's coming up next, and we hope there will be a better event for you when we head over to Portugal. Now, Sebastian Buemi has come in for his pit stop and emerged in P8, so the last of the front runners to pit now is Kevin Magnussen out of the lead. He's 8.5 seconds ahead of Da Costa. He will definitely lose the lead once he comes in. I wonder if Magnussen is going on to a one-stop strategy here, as we're coming up to half distance, Tom. Magnussen trying the alternate strategy here. Maybe he could get him a podium later on, should that work to his favour.
I think so too. I think one man who could be going on a one-stop, or two people in particular, are De Vries and De Resta. Now, De Resta in the Midland doing a fine job this season, despite how uncompetitive the Midland car has been this season. De Resta's done a fine job. Now remember, he was in the Mastercard Lola last season, Topher, and he did a stellar job in that.
He did indeed. De Resta not lacking in speed at all. He's picked up 3 points finishes so far this season. The 5th place at the opening round in Taupo, then a 4th place finish in Fuji, and an 8th place finish in Kyalami. So he's gotten some good results out of that Midland, but as you say, Tom, not really the most competitive car and under threat of relegation, especially with Marco Wittmann and Prost up there fighting for the podium. As Magnussen and De Vries now into pits, and Antonio Felix da Costa resumes the lead of the race. De Resta's up into second, but he's yet to pit. He will be going on to the one-stop strategy. So that will put Wittmann and Wehrlein back into podium positions again.
Well, Wittmann's in 3rd place now, over a second behind De Resta. And De Resta, who's yet to stop in this race, in 2nd position. And the gap now is 1.4 seconds. So De Resta managing the gap well. Wittmann probably looking after his tyres at this point. He doesn't need to be taking too many risks, as De Resta will be pitting again soon.
In the YouTube live chat, Sissibby24 asking, who is the biggest cheater in Minecraft? And I suppose in some ways the Retro Racing Managers League does count, as it is the Minecraft of motorsports, as we so affectionately refer to as. I think I might have to throw in Andrew Sampson and the Renault team 1980 here, Tom.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that could be a good bet. Or even, what was it? Maybe in the 1990 Grand Prix Tour Championship, just think who were the biggest cheaters in that one.
This is a subject that maybe we shouldn't get into before we say anything scandalous or libelous or any other kind of us that we could get done for our commentary. But anyway, Antonio Felix da Costa, he has an advantage of 10.3 seconds over Paul Di Resta, who has yet to come into the pits. Marco Wittmann in a net 2nd place, a brilliant run for him so far in the Prost. And I think Di Resta is now coming into the pits for what would be his one and only pit stop. He is indeed. So Wittmann into 2nd, Wehrlein into 3rd, Buemi into 4th. And where is Di Resta going to come out, as Hülkenberg also into the pits as well? Can Di Resta pick up some points out of this race?
It's possible. He wants to get out in front of Roy Nissany, who's yet to stop in this one. He's just been overtaken actually by De Vries. I think Nissany may be coming into the pits actually. So Di Resta wants to be out in front. I would say he'll get in front of Bourdais maybe. No, he's out behind Bourdais. So Di Resta out in some traffic, which will not help his cause, but at least it allows Wittmann up to 2nd now. He may be nearly 12 seconds off the pace to Da Costa, but he would most certainly have taken his hand off for 2nd place at the beginning of this one, wouldn't he?
I'm kind of glad to see that Andrew Sampson in the YouTube live chat is actually seeing the funny side of our comment just then, saying, hell yeah, illegal turbos rule. So if you don't know, we ran the 1980 Formula 1 season earlier on last year, I think it was now. And Andrew Sampson getting done for having illegal turbos on his car. That was in what is effectively our hardcore mode in the Retro Racing Managers League. It's not just the Grand Prix World Series that we run. We also have a career mode for Formula 1 running from 1990 onwards. We did do a season of 1980 as a test bed effectively. And Andrew Sampson falling foul of scrutineering. That is actually a factor within that particular championship. And he was found to have illegal turbos on his car and thrown out of the race results from, I think it might have been Dijon that particular year. My memory fails me a little bit on that, but it's a little running joke that we have now, and I'm really glad to see that Andrew Sampson is seeing the funny side of that. So Andrew Sampson having a good time of it in League 2. He's the team manager of the Live team, who are very much in contention for promotion up to League 1 next season, and we wish you all the best, Andrew. We'd love to have you in the championship, and it's good to see your cars doing well. Whether they have illegal turbos or not, that's another matter. But anyway, back to the Grand Prix World Series. We are halfway through the League 1 Hockenheim Grand Prix. Da Costa 11.9 seconds in the lead over Marco Wittmann. Pascal Wehrlein in 3rd ahead of Buemi, and Kevin Magnussen, Piquet Jr. on for another points finish in P6. The Prix is in 7th, Bourdais in 8th ahead of Paul Di Resta, on for 2 points for Midland, and Andre Lotterer in 10th.
The Wittmann managing to get up very nicely now to Da Costa. Calderon comes into the pits from the 16th position. And I think Kobayashi came into the pits again. That will be his second stop of the race as well for Kobayashi. These chances of points are pretty unlikely now. Now, Wittmann's second in this one. I'm just looking at Di Resta, he's in 9th, so Midland would still get a couple of points as it stands. In terms of the fight to beat the drop, Midland would be on 44 points, Prost would be on 44, but with a second place finish from today, Prost would be ahead of Midland on countback. They would go up to 9th and all that. 40 would drop into the relegation zone along with Minardi.
I love how competitive this championship is, both at the top of the standings and at the bottom of the standings. There's so much to play for, and it is so close across the grid. We could have like any combination of teams really going down to League 2 at the end of the season. I think it's pretty much a given at this point that MasterCard Loader will be going down. They've only got 5 points to its name so far this season. So, a lot to play for, and Prost and Midland being equal on points. As it stands, being on the bubble of relegation, there's so much to play for as we look towards the final 4 races of the season. There is Marco Wittmann running his best race so far this season. Oh, Wehrlein and Buemi fighting them. Buemi's through into P3. So a battle going on between those two, and Buemi has deprived Wehrlein of a podium position at the moment as he goes through at the Clark Curva. Wehrlein back into the slipstream here, and he'll try to get the move back through into the Ost Curva. We're now looking at Marco Wittmann in P2, trying to get a glimpse behind them. It looks like Wehrlein is back through on Sebastian Buemi into P3. A right ding-dong battle going on between those two. That is for the final spot on the podium. And with how competitive it has been, Tom, every point counts. And if they can pick up a good result where other championship contenders might fail, they could thrust themselves right into contention for the title.
They could, and Buemi's got back through on Wehrlein again. Now, has he done that in the Senna Curva this time? He probably may have done, but that battle is far from over, isn't it?
Well, here it is again. They are side by side heading down towards the Agip Curva. Wehrlein on the inside, he's going to get moved through. No, Buemi's held on around the outside. Brilliant driving there from the Swiss. Now going down into the Sachs Curva, and he's got the move done on Pascal Wehrlein. And through this stadium station, he'll now want to get these corners right and build up as much of a gap as he can go around the final 2 corners. Now Buemi does indeed have the advantage over Wehrlein. Cross the start-finish line, Buemi now looking to get the power down and get away from his German rival. A great battle going on between those two. Here is your race leader, Antonio Felix da Costa, 12.8 seconds in the lead, and very comfortable out in front at the moment. Super Aguri yet to win a race. They haven't won a Grand Prix since the Helsinki Grand Prix in Season 1. That was at the hands of Timo Glock that season, who's now a reserve driver with the Pacific team in League 2. So it's been a little bit of a dry spell for Super Aguri in terms of race victories, but they've always been there or thereabouts, picking up podiums, picking up points finishes, and they are leading the championship at the moment, but without a race victory. Could that all change today, Tom?
It could well be. Da Costa just needs to get the cars to the end, but we saw what happened at the Imola Grand Prix a couple of rounds ago, Topher. Not that I need to mention that too much.
Well, let's not get into that too much. Anyway, Marco Wittmann putting in a great drive here for Prost today. Prost yet to stand on a podium this season. Wittmann on course to change that as we are about 15 laps away from the end of this Grand Prix. There is Sebastian Buemi, who has now built up a bit of a gap to Wehrlein. He has dispatched the German and built up their gap, so now lessening the threat of the AGS behind him. Going back to what Mississippi24 was asking in the YouTube live chat about biggest Minecraft cheater, saying George Not Found is the biggest cheater. Well, I have no idea who that is, but I don't know if they'll be a contender to Andrew Sampson or not. So that's a discussion for another day, I think. Let's have a quick run through the order as we start lap 21 out of 34. Da Costa leads, Wittmann second, Buemi third, Wehrlein fourth, Magnussen fifth, PK Jr. sixth, De Vries seventh, Bourdais 8th, Di Resta 9th, and Andre Lotterer in P10. Nakajima not too far behind Lotterer for that final points per position. And there's a quick look at the last lap times. Da Costa about half a second faster than Wittmann here, so very comfortable out in the lead. And Wittmann even faster than Buemi actually, so Wittmann putting in a great performance of his own. This has been a fine drive from Wittmann and from Da Costa. Great driving all around, Tom. This has been a great Grand Prix so far.
He really has, and Wittmann, as it stands, in my opinion, I don't want to be too biased, will he be our driver of the day?
Well, Buemi's out. Buemi has dropped out of P3. Now, what has happened to the Swiss BAR driver? Oh, he's had a bit of an incident there, maybe. And, oh, we've only called the back end of the replay there, but that looks to be quite a huge accident there for Sebastian Buemi. I wonder if that was maybe coming together with Pascal Wehrlein. He had cleared the German, so maybe not. So maybe he's gone and done that on his own, Tom. It was quite a big impact, so maybe going across the chicane there, maybe? I'm not quite sure what's happened there.
I'd have to look at the gaps, actually, because I think Buemi's lost that all by himself, you know. Because we've seen drivers before running over those curves really heavily and with disastrous consequences. So what terrible luck there for the BAR team and for Sebastian Buemi. That's a dent in his title hopes as well.
And quite the dent in his car as well. That's quite a big impact there for the Swiss driver. He is now out of the League 1 Hockenheim Grand Prix. That puts Wehrlein back into P3. BAR still have one driver left in the form of Nick de Vries running in P6 at the moment, and Wittmann now enjoys even more of a gap behind him. He's just happily there in P2, just bringing his car through to the end, and let's hope, Tom, that there won't be any reliability issues between now and the end of the race.
Whereas especially not so for Da Costa, who's out leading.
Yeah, Da Costa 14.1 advantage over Wittmann at the moment, so looking very good for his maiden Grand Prix World Series victory. I'm just trying to remember what the numbers are, Tom. We've had quite a lot of different race winners so far this season. I think at the end of the last round, which was round 11, we've had 22 races before today. I think out of those 22 races, we've had, I think it's 17 or 18 different winners.
It was 17, so with Will Power obviously winning today's race, it's still 17. If Da Costa was to win this one, that would make it 18 because he hasn't won a race this season yet.
18 out of 24 in Season 2 of the Grand Prix World Series. We keep saying time and time again just how competitive this championship is. I think that number alone just proves that. I don't think I really need to say any more than that. 18 from 24 should Da Costa go through and win this race. In fact, to be fair, Tom, none of the top three have even won a race in the Grand Prix World Series. I'm looking through the order here, actually. Magnussen won a race earlier on this season. He was the winner in Birmingham, at the Birmingham Super Prix. Bourdais won his first ever Grand Prix World Series race at Istanbul. And Hülkenberg won his first race at the Sepang Grand Prix. So out of the top 10, Tom, only 3 race winners, and the top one of those is only in P4.
Yeah, it's incredible that. So we're very much on the verge of another different race winner this season as Wittmann pits for his final stop.
So this will definitely be going through to the end of the race for Marco Wittmann. But where is he going to come out in relation to traffic? I'm looking at the gaps here. Might come out around about between PK and De Vries. I think there's a gap of 11 seconds between those two. So there will be quite a nice gap for Wittmann to drop into and get that clear red to get his tyres up to temperature and get back up to speed again. Pico Jr. actually coming into the pits as well for his final pit stop. So De Vries needs to look out, Wittmann needs to look out for where De Vries is. I think he will be coming out quite close to him actually. Look, as De Vries has just gone past Piquet Jr. and there goes De Vries into P4. So Wittmann has actually lost more positions than we thought he might, but he'll have fresher tyres, he'll get them up to temperature and get onto the back of De Vries and get that position back.
Now, how's De Vries, is he on the one stop, do we know, Topher, or is he on the two?
I think he's on the 2-stop strategy if I remember correctly, but I'm not exactly best known for my memory. I've got a lot of notes here to help me with that sort of thing. Wittmann still on course for what would be a very needed podium for the Prost team today. And we now look at Marco Andretti in the P10. In the top 10 in the championship. He's had quite a good season so far. He's not challenged for any race victories with the exception of Chennai when he was leading for a few laps before retirement, but just solidly got about his business and scored some good points finishes throughout the course of the season. I think he's got himself 7 points finishes so far this season. And Da Costa now into the pits from the lead. So where is he going to come out in relation to Magnussen? I think will be his closest challenger there. He will most likely be ahead of De Vries and Wittmann. So Da Costa set to get some clear air as he pursues his maiden Grand Prix World Series victory, as Jaime Alguersuari there getting past Kamui Kobayashi for P15. So one Prost driver on course for a podium here and the other one not even in the points. So it's a bit of a bittersweet day for the Prost team at the moment, but I think the podium, Tom, will be very welcome for your team.
Most especially so. Wittmann does not need to be taking any risks here. Wittmann's got past Verline now, so that's crucial for his race as his teammate Alguersuari gets passed again by Kobayashi for 15th place. Alguersuari struggled in this race, hasn't he? He didn't quite have the pace in qualifying and struggled again once today, but crucially for Da Costa, he's out in front of Magnussen.
So very crucial there for Da Costa. He has maintained the lead through that second pit stop. He's a full pit stop ahead of Kevin Magnussen, and that will be very crucial as he runs through towards the end of this race. But isn't Magnussen on the one stop, actually, thinking about it, Tom? I think Magnussen was one of the one stoppers in this race.
Yeah, I think he is. So Wittmann's going to have to pass Magnussen on track. Having said that, Magnussen's going to be on all the tyres. As Wittmann gets past De Vries, that's crucial.
That is very crucial indeed for Marco Wittmann as he pursues second place here today. He's now got no one between himself and Kevin Magnussen. We're waiting for the gaps to update. There's 1.3 between Da Costa and Magnussen, and what's the gap going to be to Wittmann behind? We are waiting for that to update so we can see what Wittmann needs to do to get back second place. The gap between them is 14.5 with about 12 laps here to go, so Wittmann needs to take probably at least a second and a half out to Magnussen if he's going to not just catch him, Tom, but also overtake him.
Yeah, and Magnussen, I don't think he's got any hope of passing Magnussen now on all the tyres that he's on, and he'll have to watch out for Wittmann. We need to have a look to see how much time Wittmann is taking out of Magnussen's gap. The gap was over 14 seconds, I believe, in the last sector, so we'll have a look on the times when Wittmann does get round onto the start-finish straight, and then we'll know for certain. The gap is just under 14 seconds, so he is definitely closing in on the AGS.
That gap is coming down, but is it coming down enough? It's going to be a grandstand finish between those two. Well, of course, one factor that will come into this, Tom, is tyre life. Wittmann on the fresher tyres, Magnussen already on older tyres, so that could be quite a crucial factor as we go through, especially into the final few laps of this race. Can Magnussen hold on to that tyre life? Wittmann bearing down on him now. Magnussen losing out time to Antonio Felix Da Costa in the lead, 2.5 between those two. And it's down to 13.4. So that's about a second in just that last sector alone, Tom. Wittmann absolutely flying at this point.
He's definitely closing in on him, but I'm not sure if he's closing him enough with the pace he's setting, but he'll give it a good try. As you can see, there's the manner of what looked like Andretti trying to pass Alguersuari. Yeah, it was Andretti trying to pass Alguersuari there. Roy Nissany, 9th position at the moment for 40. We didn't quite pick up on that, but I think Nissany's on the one stop. So this is probably his best chance of salvaging some points for the 40 team, which will be crucial for their campaign.
Nissany's gone a bit under the radar in this race. He had a bit of a battle earlier on with who I think was Calderon, if I remember correctly, but he's quietly gone about his business since then, and it's now into P9. He's picked up 2 points finishes so far this season. He took points on debut when he came into the 40 Corsi team at the Chennai Grand Prix. He picked up a 5th place finish there, much to the delight of Dave Goddard. He was very happy with Nissany's performance, and he was kept on for the rest of the season. Since then, he went on a bit of a dry spell, but he finally picked up some points last time out in Magny-Cours with a 4th place finish, his best result of the campaign so far. So Roy Nissany, 22 points to his name so far this season. Set to add another couple as it stands at the moment, but a lot can happen between now and the end of the Grand Prix. As we've seen many a time, Tom, sometimes it goes right down to the wire and to the last corner of the last lap.
It certainly does. We saw it, do you remember back in Malaysia where I think it was Sam Bird who got in front of Alex Wurz on the last lap in the lead to Sepang Grand Prix. He did it on the last corner, didn't he? Got up to second.
Yeah, very close finish between those two. Sam Bird coming out on top ahead of Alexander Wurz in that particular instance. Alexander Wurz no longer a driver in the Grand Prix World Series. He was with the Leighton House team, but Chris Cavani taking the decision to drop him in favour of Will Power, which I think it has to be said, Tom, paid up very handsomely for him.
Yeah, I initially criticised Chris for that, because I felt Wurz wasn't as bad of a driver as he was, but Power and Christian Evers are 2 better drivers than what they had initially with Wurz and Wickens earlier in the season. It's paid dividends for Chris Cavani, and they're very, very close now to getting promotion. In fact, they can mathematically clinch promotion at the next round in Estoril,
which would be quite something for the Leighton House team. But that is in League 2. In League 1, it is the fight for the championship, the main title within the Grand Prix World Series, the title of League 1 champions. As it stands, it will go to Super Aguri, but of course, the likes of Simtech, the likes of AGS, the likes of BAR, the likes of Arrows, and everyone else, they'll all have something to say about that as we look towards the tail end of this championship. We mentioned it earlier, Tom, about the driver markets opening up for Season 3. Teams can't declare any drivers just yet. The rule in place is that the teams have first choice on whether they want to retain any drivers going through into Season 3. And then once that process is played out, then the driver market comes into effect. And Tom, dare I ask you the question about your driver lineup?
Not quite so yet. I'm still tight-lipped on the matter, but I'd rather keep it to myself. I think my priority at the moment is to make sure we stay in League One.
I think that is a very fair priority to have. League One obviously is where all of the teams want to be. It is the main championship, and a little bit of a lock-up there for Nick de Vries in P4. He keeps it on the island, though, and he carries on in the lead, but with Wehrlein not too far behind him, he won't want to make too many more mistakes like that. The gap between them is 4.2 seconds. That might well come down within this sector with de Vries having made that mistake into the Ostkurve. Now, looking at the gap between Magnussen and Wittmann, Tom, about 9 laps to go here, and it's down to about 11 seconds. It's possible.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it is, to be honest with you. Wittmann's not quite taking enough out of it. I think he's thinking more about just getting the car to the end of the race now. 15 points is a big haul of points for the team.
But can he maybe get some more as we get later on into the race? Don't forget the tyre life will play an issue as Magnussen's tyres get older and older with every passing lap. And there is Nico Hülkenberg behind Nelson Piquet Jr. That is a fight for P6 between those two. And behind them actually is Andre Lotterer. So Hülkenberg is the lead in the BMS Scuderia Italia sandwich at the moment. They're all wanting to get into as high a points position as they can, but with the way that the top 5 is running at the moment, maybe the fight for P6 is the best they can hope for. And this will, of course, get more intense as we get further and further towards the end of this race. Ricardo P41 asking, who has Tom got currently? Well, Tom Cairns, alongside me in the comment box, is the team manager of the Prost team, which is currently running Marco Wittmann and Jaime Alguersuari. And Alguersuari, he was a race winner last season in Season 1, not picked up the same sort of results in Season 2, but Wittmann, after a few retirements coming into the Grand Prix World Series at first, now coming good of his ability and running on course for a podium.
He's doing a very fine job as well, and people are just thinking, what drivers to have for next season, because we've got a lot of new managers coming in with the third league being put together.
We are introducing a third league into the Grand Prix World Series. If we can get enough team managers interested, it will happen. So anyone watching along with this, if you want to manage a team within a Grand Prix World Series, get in touch. You can find us on Twitter, you can find us on Facebook, or you can send us an email, which is found in the description of this video. Make sure you get in touch. It'll be great to have you, and this is such a fun championship to be part of. And Kobayashi there conceding P14 to Marco Andretti. It's not a fight for points at the moment. And I'd have to be honest, Tom, for me, Kobayashi, I think, is the disappointment of the season. He started off with a perfect score in Taupo, but since then hasn't really done anything at all. He picked up another podium in Imola. Other than that, only 2 points finishes, and there's a P9 and a P10. And Kobayashi, we know, is a much better driver than that, but just hasn't had the pace all season.
No, I don't know where his pace has gone, Kobayashi, since last season. And Arrows were very, very strong in at the beginning of the campaign. I mean, there's still won a race or two with Nico Hülkenberg as well, so bearing that in mind. They're still in the running for the championship, but Kobayashi, like you say, has been one of the most disappointing drivers in this campaign. The gap between Magnussen and Wittmann has come down to 9.5 seconds. I don't think Wittmann's going to have enough time to catch him, but anything can happen in the final 6 laps.
Ricardo P41 saying he's already sent the email to join. It'd be great to have you along. And at the end of the season, we will introduce who the new teams are going to be. So keep an eye out for those, and then you can pick who you want to manage in Season 3. We are now on lap 29 out of 34 in the League 1 Hockenheim Grand Prix. Marco Andretti embroiled in this massive battle here with Kamui Kobayashi, gets it down the inside towards the Clark curve, down the inside, and he gets the move done into P14. Again, it's not for points, but it could still be crucial because counts back counts within the Grand Prix World Series. And Tom, with how closely contested the Grand Prix World Series is, even if you're not fighting for the points, it could end up being the case as a P14 or a P15 could end up dictating your position in the championship.
You can most certainly say, and especially to those who are battling for survival, i.e. Midland, Minardi, Prost and Forty.
It's so competitive, we absolutely love it for it. Lap 30 out of 34, we are on the 5th to last lap here in Hockenheim. Antonio Felix da Costa 10.2 seconds ahead of this man here, Kevin Magnussen. P3, Marco Wittmann on for his first podium in the Grand Prix World Series and Prost's first podium of the season. That'll be very welcome down in the Prost camp. And with Tom Cairns, Nick de Vries on for a good result in P4 and Pascal Wehrlein in 5th position. Only half a second behind de Vries at the moment, so maybe some fireworks to come between those two in the closing stages of this race. Piquet Jr., Nico Hulkenberg and Andre Lotterer still all together on track, although Piquet has gapped them a little bit now. It looks safe for P6 as Wehrlein's looking to get down the inside of Nick de Vries here, down into what I think is the Ostkurve, halfway around the track, and Wehrlein does indeed make the move through into P4. So both AGS drivers within the top 4. Phil Kinch will be rubbing his hands together with Glee at this. He's going to get a massive haul of points towards his championship challenge. And AGS is one of the teams that is there or thereabouts at the top of the championship, so this is going to be very important for AGS if they want to win this year's title.
Well, with AGS where they are, if they get 30 points in this race, which is as it stands now, they, at the moment, well, they'll move up to 3rd in the championship in the team stand. So from where they are in 6th, they're about to go up to 3rd.
I wonder what's going through Phil Kinch's mind right now. It must be a mixture of excitement and tension. As we've seen, Tom, he can get to this stage in the race, but in the last few laps, it can all come to naught. I do not wish to put any sort of commentator's curse or jinx onto Phil Kinch and the AGS team. I love to see his team do well. He's got 2 great drivers in Kevin Magnussen and Pascal Wehrlein, and at the moment they are on course for 30 points. That would be great towards their championship challenge. Marco Wittmann here in P3 on for 15 points, which Tom Cairns and the Prost team really needs if they are to avoid relegation down into League 2. And Antonio Felix da Costa only a handful of laps now away from his maiden Grand Prix World Series victory. And he's been at the head of the championship already on a couple of occasions this season, Tom. Still hasn't got that race victory, but if he gets the job done here today, I believe he will take the lead in the championship for, I think, what will be the 3rd time this season.
Well, he was 15 points behind Scott Dixon before the race started. Well, he was, well, after he got pole position. So as it stands, da Costa would move ahead of him by, how many points would he be on? He would be on 102 points, wouldn't he, at least? So, yeah, it's going to be quite I wouldn't say it's a comfortable lead, because the lead in the championship keeps chopping and changing it every round. But it's definitely good to see him at the head of the field, as Roy Nissany is backing into Sebastian Bourdais over 9th place. This is crucial for Dave Gollard's boys.
So Bourdais had got through on a previous lap past Roy Nissany, and the Israeli now back through again on the Frenchman. This is a great battle going on for 9th and 10th position. Every point counts in the Grand Prix World Series. Could be absolutely crucial for 40 Corsi as well. And don't forget Onyx, another one of those teams that is fighting for the championship at the top end of the standings. So Bourdais getting a little bit frustrated behind Nissany maybe, but he now makes a move through again into the centre curve, gets the move done, and Bourdais into P9. But where is Nissany behind him? Will the Israeli want to make a move through again past him? There's a lot going on in this race. We're looking at Marco Wittmann in P3. He's 8.3 seconds off of Kevin Magnussen. So I think 3rd position will be Wittmann's for the taking in this race. I don't think anyone can complain too much about that. Prost have needed a result this season, and it is about to come their way as we are on lap 32. Out of 34, we have 2.5 laps left to go here in Hockenheim. Here is your race leader, Antonio Felix da Costa, who we're riding on board with at the moment. A very comfortable gap to Kevin Magnussen in P2. Wittmann in 3rd, Wehrlein in 4th, and de Vries, Piquet, Hulkenberg, Lotterer, Bourdais, and Nissany. And Bourdais has dropped Nissany a bit for P9. Nakajima not actually that far away from Nissany, so maybe both Onyx drivers can get into the top 10 by the end of this race. We'll try and keep an eye on that one when we can. And Nakajima bringing Di Resta along with him as well. Midland's currently on course for 0 points, having had Montero retiring earlier on with an engine problem. So Midlands, they'll want to get any points they can on the board, with Prost set to benefit from Wittmann's podium here today. We will bring you all the championship standings at the next race once everything is calculated, and in the relegation fight for the bottom 3 positions, it's getting so spicy, it's so tasty down there. Anything can happen in the last few races, and at this moment in the season, Tom, I don't think I can predict who's going to go down other than Lola.
It's very hard, isn't it? I mean, with Minardi not... I mean, Minardi have struggled in the second half of the season with how they've been scoring points. I don't think they've scored points in the last 5. Or they have with Yonkandaya, but other than that, they've really, really struggled.
Now, my understanding here, Tom, is Yonkandaya is one of those drivers that is sniffing around for a seat next season. Because Minardi, they will have a new team principal in Season 3 because Teapot is not continuing with the team. So they are effectively up for sale at the end of the season. I'm sure someone would love to take on a team like Minardi. But what does that mean? Not just for Danny Yonkandaya, but also for Tom Christensen. Christensen did pick up a podium at the Japan Grand Prix. He does have pace, just not necessarily consistent pace. But Danny Yonkandaya, he picked up a point on his debut, and he's been getting into some really good battles, but not for points at the moment. So I'm sure he will be sniffing around looking to move up to a top team for next season. So maybe one of the top teams will be looking at his services and see if he can get the job done in a faster car.
So the gap between Magnussen and Wittmann is 7.7 seconds. Is Magnussen slowing? Magnussen's slowing.
We're riding on board with Kevin Magnussen at the moment, and he looks okay. So
okay, I thought he was
wait, no, he is slowing. I think he is, was he? He looks like he's not going at full capacity at the moment. We're just about to start the last lap here.
He's not going very fast, is he?
He's not going fast at all. So has he got a developing problem here? So DaCosta has started the last lap. We're waiting to see what the gap is. It's 14.5. It's now 17.9, and there we go. The engine has gone. We thought Magnussen might have been having a bit of a problem there. We saw it in the gap between DaCosta and Magnussen as it went down about 3 seconds in that sector alone, and the engine has now gone on Magnussen, and he is out on the last lap. It is not going to be a double points finish for the AGS team. Wehrlein is going to benefit to get a podium on home turf here today, but Phil Kinch, his head will be in his hands at that one, as Magnussen, 1 lap away from a second place finish. It would have propelled him right up into the fight for the championship. And there we go, he's on the side of the circuit, and that is absolute heartbreak for Kevin Magnussen, Tom.
So I was right after all when I saw him go through the marker boards before the stadium section.
I mean, you weren't wrong. It did look like he was going slower than normal, so it must have been a developing problem within that AGS. The engine finally letting go on it, and he's pulled over now. I wonder what Phil Kinch is thinking right now. On the one hand, he's lost second place, but on the other hand, he's gained third place. I think obviously, he would have much rather had both up there in the top 4. It's sort of a silver lining in a way, isn't it? He's still going to get 1 car on the podium.
Well, we want to pick on DaCosta actually, because he's about to complete his final lap.
So, Antonio Felix DaCosta, we're not looking at him at the moment. We're riding on board, well, we were riding on board with the Manor, but we're now looking at Marco Wittmann and Antonio Felix DaCosta. There we go, Antonio Felix DaCosta wins the League 1 Hockenheim Grand Prix and finally takes his maiden Grand Prix World Series victory, and it's the first win of the season for Super Aguri. A dominant drive for Antonio Felix DaCosta, and he becomes our 18th different race win across both leagues this season. And Marco Wittmann, second place for himself and for the Prost team. Tom, there must be a smile on your face with that one.
That is a massive, massive relief. Marco Wittmann absolutely deserved that result from start to finish. After qualifying so well, didn't go off to the best of starts, and it got to third at one point, then it was second when Van Dorn retired, and then he got a bit of luck on his side on the last side with Magnussen going out. And yeah, can't take anything away from him. And 2 Germans on the podium as well, with Wehrlein third for AGS.
So a little bit bittersweet for the AGS team. 1 car on the side of the track in flames, and the other one finishing on the podium. De Vries in 4th. Piquet Jr. moves up into 5th. Then Hülkenberg in 6th, ahead of Lotterer. Bourdais 8th. Nissany holds on ahead of Nakajima for P9. And the rest are just missing out on the point, but only 4/10 there in what could have been a crucial point for Midland in a relegation battle. They now walk away with 0 points from this weekend. And Antonio Felix DaCosta, finally a race winner in the Grand Prix World Series. That has been a long time coming, Tom. He's finally got the job done.
Absolutely. So, and DaCosta dominant from start to finish. Took advantage of the likes of Van Dorn and Dixon, who will have another day to figure out after that one, for sure.
Right, here are all of the race results for you. Antonio Felix DaCosta wins ahead of Marco Wittmann, his debut podium in the Grand Prix World Series, and Pascal Wehrlein picking up the pieces for AGS in 3rd. 2 Germans on the podium in Germany. Nick De Vries 4th in the BAR ahead of Nelson Piquet Jr., Nico Hülkenberg and Lotterer Hülkenberg the meat and the BMS sandwich. Bourdais and 8th ahead of Roy Nassani, 2 points from 40 Corsi there, and Nakajima putting both Onyxes into the points. De Resta misses out on points by less than half a second. Marco Andretti and Roman Grosjean 12th and 13th for the Mana team. Kobayashi, a bad day for him in P14. Then Junkendaya, Alguersuari, Christensen, Calderon, Sarlo, and then Magnussen retiring on the last lap. And then our full retirees, Buemi, Di Silvestro, Dixon, Van Dorn. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. There. Montero and Frames. Fastest lap goes to Scott Dixon. Sorry, I was mincing my words a little bit there on that one. Anyway, Antonio Felix da Costa, finally a race winner within the Grand Prix World Series. And Tom, 2 exceptional races once again here in the Grand Prix World Series. 4 rounds left to go. We head to Estoril next. And it's only becoming more and more exciting, Tom. It's so close in the championship. Not just in the drivers, but also in the teams as well. Sum everything up for me if you can.
I mean, I feel deeply sorry for Phil Kinch and Kevin Magnussen, because had he got that second place finish, he would have been firmly in the championship battle. But now it seems that, realistically, I would say it's between 5 drivers with Da Costa, Dixon, Lotterer, Hülkenberg and Freins in the reckoning. And well done to you as well for picking up your first victory at last this season.
Well, thank you very much. Super Guri, which is my team, pick up 2 wins last season. It's been a long time coming for the 3rd one. And I'm happy to get it, especially with Antonio Felix da Costa now in the lead of the Drivers' Championship. He has 102 points as it stands now. Dixon and Lotterer tied in second on 93 points each. But Dixon ahead on countback by virtue of 3 victories to Lotterer's 1. Nico Hülkenberg up there in 4th place, 91 points for him. And Roman Frains down to 5th in the standings, having not scored today after his crash on lap 1. 13 points, covers the top 5 in the championship. It is so exciting. We cannot wait for the next round, which, as I said, is going to be in Estoril in Portugal. It is a fantastic circuit. Plenty of overtaking opportunities in this one. It's going to be an absolute cracker of an event. Tom, I'm pretty sure you love the Estoril circuit as much as I do. This is going to be another good one.
I should imagine so too, and if this is your first time watching the Grand Prix World Series today, do please make sure you watch the next one, and I'm sure you'll be eager to get some racing. And it's very, very close in terms of the championship, Topher. Anyone can win.
Yes, mathematically, anyone is still in contention for this championship. There is 108 points left in the Drivers' Championship at the moment, and the furthest away out of those is Simona Di Silvestro, who is 101 points. So it's a bit of a long shot, but mathematically it's possible. Anyway, if you love the Grand Prix World Series, make sure you tune in next time. It will be the Estoril Grand Prix. We run these races every Wednesday, 1 o'clock UK time. Make sure you tune in next time. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Topher Smith, alongside me Tom Kent. See you next time.